you're never actually safe from the Coheed and Cambria reference. It's around any corner. I've never wanted to have sex with a pot pie, but like, I'd have sex with that pot pie.
We're all weak to stepping on nails.
Let me preface this by saying I wrote a script.
Daytona Beach is like 2 mild inconveniences from being a post-apocalyptic wasteland anyway.
So many of my tabs say semen.
Are you guys ready for this weird, horny adventure that we're all about to go on?
You can't handcuff me for skanking.
This motherfucker gaslights you.
Diet Coke and Sorrow will be chapter 4.
And against all odds, Kyle, we became those swirly weirdos.
This whole podcast is a very negative mouthfeel.
Water, earth, fire, wind, water, heart. Wait. Water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the 4 nations lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. We've all heard that before, right?
I get it. That reference.
Guys, we're
That's
doing
funny.
Avatar.
We're doing Avatar.
Hello, and welcome to Debate This, a show where no one is right, but someone is definitely wrong. In this show, we take time out of our busy adult lives to talk about comic books, video games, and how tentpole Nickelodeon we take time out of our busy adult lives to talk about comic books, video games, and tentpole Nickelodeon properties that were treated poorly by their home network, only to be later given their own studio to pad out an unnecessary extra streaming service.
That is a much broader group than I would like to acknowledge.
I don't know many others that got their own studio to pad out an unnecessary streaming service, but Nickelodeon does like to treat big tentpole properties of it very poorly.
I gotta play the fool here. Which shows are you referring to? Paramount Plus, and which shows are you referring to? I'm not following you on this.
I'm actually referring to the show we're about to talk about today, Avatar: The Last Airbender, which they were given when they announced Paramount Plus. They also announced the creation of Avatar Studios to create content specifically for Paramount Plus.
I did not know that.
Featuring the 2 creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, I was referencing SpongeBob, which while it hasn't totally been made to pad out its own streaming service, it has been given its own sub-studio to wring money out of an IP after the creator died.
Anything Butch Hartman, like whatever Butch Hartman's studio is called, is similar. Like they get their cash cow and then they squeeze it dry.
To quote that Phineas and Ferb meme, if I had a nickel for every time it happened, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Your pop-up video moment is Butch Hartman was the creator of Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom. Everybody on this podcast knows that, but I don't know that our listeners know that.
Man, listen, I really like Avatar. I'm excited to talk about Avatar. I'd kind of rather talk about Danny Phantom today. Can we talk about Danny Phantom?
See, and when I think of Danny Phantom, then I start debating, do I like Danny Phantom more than Ben 10? Because I really like Ben 10.
That was the same question I just had.
Right?
The only reason, I'm going to say a hot take, the only reason I watched Danny Phantom is because it looked like Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah.
I never liked Danny Phantom.
Danny Phantom is a very good property. It is not what we're talking about today. If you want us to talk about Danny Phantom or Ben 10, please join our Patreon at the Master Debater level for 3 months, and then you can commission your own flavor text, and we'll force Todd, Matt, Andrew, or myself to watch all of Danny Phantom or Ben 10, and then talk about it on this podcast.
There are so many Ben 10 spinoffs,
so many,
and I would watch them all.
You heard them, guys. You'd watch them all. So before I dive into this, I would like to thank longtime patron, now Master Debater level patron, and hashtag ButtThwompNation citizen, fan of the show, and my brother, the harmacist himself, Dr. Garlic Butter, for commissioning today's episode.
He's got 7 titles.
He's got 7. He's got so many titles at this point. Forcing me to do an even deeper dive on this show that we both grew up watching and obsessing over together. So thank you, Derek, for this opportunity, and I hope this scratches your Avatar itch, because it was a lot.
Were you gonna say, I hope this fills your Avatar hole? Is that
Nope.
what you were gonna say?
I think I was gonna say, I hope this fits your criteria, but I didn't like that. So yeah. But fills your Avatar hole is icky, and I hate
a
you
bad
for
sentence.
putting that in my
Listeners, we here debate this. Want to fill your Avatar hole?
No,
Nope, we don't. We don't.
Now
Cloaca.
you have a clean cut of that. You're welcome. Let's go on. Let's continue.
So to help me do that today, and so I'm not talking into a silent microphone for 4 hours, are Andrew Badger Mole Henderson, Todd Tiger Dillo Thomas, and Matt Otter Penguin Cole. So before we do dive in, guys, what do you know about Avatar: The Last Airbender and or its spin-off projects?
Who wants to start?
Can I start?
You can.
So I watched the original series fairly half-heartedly, and I shared with the other guys in the recording. So out of the 4 of us, 3 of us were present when we paid our actual hard-earned college money to go and see this movie.
Disappointed by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, where the theater, I think, actually booed at the end of the movie, which was a very interesting
That was a first
experience.
for me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been really cathartic in the moment, though.
It was.
It was and it wasn't, because like,
I mean, yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was bittersweet, but it's like the reason we were booing, we were way more upset about.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember during the credits, the guys like next to us were talking, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't think this is a very good movie." And I think Andrew leaned out and looked at him and said, "We're gonna boo this movie," or something to the tune of, "How about a good old fashioned booing?" Which obviously the movie was bad. The series was very fun, and I am a casual fan, but I did enjoy everything that I watched.
Yeah, my experience is similar because I was watching Avatar while Todd was either half-heartedly watching Avatar when we lived together, while in between mainlining episodes of Lost.
Oh, I was watching so much Lost. That was when I was getting DVDs sent to me by Netflix.
And you were also exclusively keeping that Little Caesars by our apartment in business.
Yeah, not many years after we moved, it shut down. So
yeah, not a joke. So I definitely watched it, loved it when I watched it. It has been 10 years. So I've forgotten most of the major beats. So I'm looking forward to just getting reminded of this. I will say I have never watched Legend of Korra. I've wanted to for a long time. It's been on my wish list like forever. I just never,
I will talk about Legend of Korra at the end. Unfortunately for Derek, I'm not going
to get there.
Sit you guys through a deep dive of Legend of Korra in the same recording session, because it will double the length of this episode, which is already going to be pretty long. So we will hit on it. Legend of Korra is a very good follow-up for a property that Nickelodeon seemingly could have cared any less about. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, my answer is pretty similar, but in a different way, because we were having much different life experiences in 2005, 2006. So I was watching Avatar as it aired on TV, and I enjoyed it. I really liked it, but let's see, how long was Avatar on? 6 years?
The first episode aired February 21st, 2005, and the series wrapped late 2008. Because I was in college. I was in my freshman. I watched the finale in 58.
So,
in our fraternity house, I watched the finale.
So as the baby of this show, I'm obligated to note that I was in middle school when Avatar happened.
Oh,
and so I watched it when it was on TV, but I didn't watch every episode. I didn't keep super track of it. I really enjoyed it, and it's definitely one of those shows that I have kept thinking, man, I should go back and rewatch Avatar. I should finish that series and put the effort into it. And I'm guessing today is gonna convince me to do that, but I haven't done it yet. So
I will say, while both series are currently still on Netflix, it's probably your best place to watch them, because once that license expires, I'm sure it's going to go on Paramount Plus, And you guys already have Netflix and probably don't want to pay for Paramount Plus. So
2021 me feels about Paramount Plus as 2019 me felt about Disney Plus.
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
you'll inevitably cave, but you'll delay it as long as possible.
I think
You
I'm
won't
tapped.
be happy about it.
I think I'm out
don't know.
on
There's
streaming
a lot.
services.
There's a lot of them.
I can't get any more.
Something like, because I have this on Blu-ray. I have Avatar on Blu-ray. I got it months before Netflix announced it was coming to Netflix, which is fine because now I won't have to pay for Paramount Plus to watch it again. But yeah. So let's dive in, shall we? So as I said, February 1st, 2005, 2 days before your very own Kyle Harper's 15th birthday, Nickelodeon aired 2 episodes of an animated project not quite like anything else seen on the network at the time. For years, Nickelodeon had been trying to capture like the tween to young adult, young teen range with like more serious either live shows on this like animated network or more serialized animated projects, and hadn't really found an audience. There was some niche interest in projects like Invader Zim, which was a little aged up from some of the rest of Nickelodeon's fare, but that was still also like a very silly show and not super serious, and was canceled after 2 seasons because Nickelodeon hates anything that isn't an immediate runaway success for some reason. So trying to capture this audience, they released Avatar: The Last Airbender, a very serialized, anime-inspired show that put a lot of work into its world building. It's got beautiful animated fight choreography, and I know I and many others like me were immediately hooked. This would go on, like I said, to have 2 more seasons, a 4-season spinoff, a movie we all pretend didn't happen, and a comic book series that fills in some of the gaps and adds to the world building of this show. And now, as I said earlier, has its own dedicated Avatar studios to create content for Paramount Plus. So for a while, there's this weird limbo where the rights were sold to Netflix, and Netflix is still developing a live-action Avatar show that, similar to the M. Night Shyamalan movie, no one's super excited about anymore because they made very key changes.
We've all been burned before.
We've all been burned before. They made very key changes they've announced very key changes to the plot, which we can talk about at the end of the episode. It's promising to be a little more accurate to the diversity and like issues of indigenous peoples that the original show kind of dabbles in, but still ultimately like isn't going to be super faithful to the source material.
Do you mind? Can I quickly I want to comment because I think this is a really important time in TV, in streaming TV, because we're at a point like Netflix has done now a bunch of live action anime adaptations, and most of them have not been good. I will source the Death Note one with weirdly enough starring Willem Dafoe. But on this, the day of our Lord, November 8th, AD 2021, we are about 2 weeks out from the live-action Cowboy Bebop adaptation, which may be the first good anime live-action anime adaptation. And I feel like if they're able to pull it off with Cowboy Bebop, that gives me promise that this might actually not be bad. I will also cite The Witcher as not necessarily an anime, but a really good adaptation of a
beloved niche property that has been adapted well. Yeah,
it feels like Netflix really, really, really wants to get there, but has not gotten there yet.
So as all of these streaming services kind of like jockey into their positions, like what niches they're going to fill, Netflix is definitely seeming to go for the like anime fan / gaming nerd crowd.
Yeah, they're going for Reddit. They want to be Reddit.
They want to be Reddit. They have the League of Legends documentary series that just aired. That's apparently very good. They're doing all the anime remakes and like the Evangelion Evangelion finished episodes that also they're now sharing with Amazon or something.
Yeah, 3.0 plus 1.0.
Yeah,
Matt, we got to get on that.
we do, and I'm interested. That's still just 4.0.
No.
So
anyway, sorry.
It's entirely possible that like it will be a good show and the changes will make sense in their new world, but it's also that they're big changes, so we'll see. So a little bit in the creation of Avatar. It's created by Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian, I'm going to mess up this last name, Konietzko. Konietzko. That sounds right. So they're the two creators. Konietzko claims he first thought of the beginnings of the Avatar series in 2001. He was studying a documentary about explorers trapped in the South Pole, and he had kind of doodled this reimagining of the wise old monk trope as a small child. So he had like the robes and the bald head still, but he was a little kid.
That's so weird.
Yeah, I don't. He's worked on a few other animated shows, Family Guy, King of the Hill, and Invader Zim as character creator. So he could have just been, practicing like character models. Who knows? He says he then drew the character into a little scene of herding bison in the sky. So with the backdrop of the South Pole documentary he'd been watching, he came up with the basic story of, quote, "There's an air guy along with these water people trapped in a snowy wasteland. Maybe some fire people pressing down on them." End quote. So elements very important to the whole series were all in that like kind of first couple sketches he made of the show that would become Avatar: The Last Airbender. DiMartino and Konietzko worked together on Family Guy, King of the Hill, and Mission Hill specifically. DiMartino was a director of a few episodes of a few seasons of those shows, and Konietzko was a character designer, as I said before. They say they pitched Avatar to Nickelodeon 2 weeks after those initial sketches were drawn up, developed it over the next 3 years, and teased it for the first time at San Diego Comic-Con in 2004 to have it come to air in 2005, like I said. Pretty amazing that like they hadn't like run a show at all together and came up with a very large property for Nickelodeon in their
like
first
a grand slam Nickelodeon property.
Yeah.
In their first try. So kudos.
Like outside of sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's interesting that they pitched to Nickelodeon first, because you wouldn't think of that as like, you would think like Cartoon Network, like for like a Toonami, like this would be like perfect Toonami fare.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. I mean, all these things are just like industry connections.
And
so.
it's industry connections. Konietzko had the in with Invader Zim at the time, so they might have been interested in keeping him on board. But yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is I think there's like, at least in regards to my childhood, there's like the first wave of Nickelodeon things that I watched when I was very young, which is like Rugrats, Doug,
Rocko's Modern Life,
Ren and Stimpy, like those things that are very like quote very old. And this strikes me as like the flagship second wave. Like after all those things had kind of started to like wane, this was a property that like came and defined the next wave of Nickelodeon releases.
Super critically acclaimed. The whole series averages like an 8 on IMDb, which is amazing for an animated kids show.
Really good for IMDb.
And for IMDb. several episodes hitting like a 9.8 to a
Holy
10 rating.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Incredible show.
Do you talk about what episode is the 10 or are the 10?
I do not. I did not
Yeah,
have
okay.
IMDb open,
Just
but
curious.
I have guesses and
Yeah.
So before we dive into the story, I'd like to cover some of the world building and the basics. The whole setup is the continuation of that monologue I started to spout at the top. It is the opening credits, the opening title sequence to every episode. So if you watch the show, you're going to hear, long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony, then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, could stop them. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. 100 years passed, and my brother and I discovered a new Avatar, an airbender named Aang. And although his airbending skills are great, he has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone. But I believe Aang can save the world. So we have our premise, we have our main character, Aang, the titular Last Airbender, which we'll get into that. And
You saying, but I believe Aang can save the world, just like unlocked a whole like 6 months of my life in my brain. Like I got chills when you said that.
yeah. It's, again, played before every episode. I binged every marathon of this like Nickelodeon played too, so I've heard that title sequence in my sleep at this point. Hundreds, if not thousands of times at this point. So
Well, it's
very-
a really iconic show open too. You know,
very
like, it's-
iconic.
Yeah.
I would put it up there with like Scrubs and Weeds. Like there's some show opens that just stick with you, and that is very much one of them.
Yeah. So Avatar takes place in a fantastical world where there are people who can telekinetically manipulate or bend, quote unquote, one of the four, quote unquote, elements: water, fire, air, and earth, all through a corresponding martial art. It's a soft magic system. There's not a one-to-one correlation between like this movement makes this element do a thing. It's all kind of like power of friendship, strength of will. The more you believe in yourself, the more you can bend, kind of thing, which is great for a kid's show. Originally taught to humans through studying the animals of this world that can manipulate these elements, or the moon in one case, as we'll talk about. The four types of bending are all genetically passed on, and therefore in this world, therefore this world is sort of shaped around four national identities that all grew from their corresponding elements and bending styles. In addition to that, there exists one person in each generation who can bend all four elements at the same time, known as the Avatar. The Avatar is destined and tasked to maintain balance in this world, whatever that may mean while they're alive.
Real quick, Kyle, Matt, can we get a he said the thing?
I said the name of the movie.
Thank you. And when the Avatar dies, their spirit reincarnates into a newborn, continuing the cycle, ensuring the world always has an Avatar to maintain the balance.
Now, when they're born, do they know that they're destined, like they're fated to be an Avatar, or do they have to like, or is it like a Hokage in Naruto where they have to get to was that for anybody?
No,
Probably
but I
not.
think really they just have to like meet with Sigourney Weaver, and if Sigourney Weaver tells them it's okay, then they can become an Avatar
Got
and
it.
go off and explore the planet with the other blue avatars.
So
That's
I'm
so-
surprised that we've gotten this far. Before somebody made a James Cameron's Avatar.
yeah, approximately 25 minutes into the recording.
It's pretty impressive.
So it does cycle. So they go in order, in a order through the four bending types. So I believe it is fire, air, water, earth in whatever organization you start. They don't immediately know. They know that they know everyone knows the cycle. So like when the previous fire avatar died, they knew the next one would be born an airbender. And then they have tests they do to find the avatar involving and it's based on tests they do to find the Dalai Lama, actually, every time the Dalai Lama reincarnates, so to speak.
They lay a bunch of stuff out on a blanket and they have a person pick it out.
Yes, they
Kyle, am I remembering this right? In that, didn't the 4 nations all have or the 4 types of bending? You might get to this. Sorry, aren't they 4 different styles of martial arts? Is that?
I will get to that. Yeah,
Cool.
They are all each based on and adapted from a real style of martial art practiced in our world. So going through the tribes in order that we're introduced to them. The water tribe, or the 4 nations, I should say. The water tribe mostly inhabits the north and south poles of the world, each with their own chief. They are loosely based on Inuit tribes and mostly sustain themselves through hunting and fishing. They practice waterbending, which is based on movements found in Tai Chi. It involves a lot of circular motion, a lot of redirection, and controlling your opponent's movements with your own movements, core to the waterbending philosophy. Excuse me. The first waterbenders learned to manipulate water from watching the moon bring the tides in and out, and much of their power is actually derived from the moon, as I kind of hinted at in the beginning. To the point where a full moon greatly increases a waterbender's ability, and a new moon greatly weakens their waterbending ability. So they are kind of on a month cycle of power as a waterbender.
They're werewolves.
They're kind of werewolfy. And we'll get into a good spooky Halloween story that pops up in book 3 having to do with that. It is the element associated with change and balance. The yin and yang are very closely associated with waterbending, and we will talk about that when we get to it. And it focuses, like I said, on controlling and reacting to your opponent's movements, not just attacking them. Next, we are introduced to an airbender. So the air nomads are a monastic order who are nomadic by nature, in that they don't have a true nation with borders, but they all live in temples that the temple exists. That's kind of the air sovereign area within other nations, but they kind of go out from the temples and try and help people, more or less. Air nomads are loosely based on Tibetan Buddhist monks and indigenous people who lived in the Himalayan mountains. Theocratic in their organization. They inhabit 4 temples spread across the world, literally a north, south, east, and west temple that are all visited throughout the series. They sustain themselves through simple agriculture and trading, but largely hold no possessions or land outside their temples. Airbending techniques are based on the martial art Bagua and Gunshu. Bagua being a standalone martial art, and Gunshu being Chinese staff martial arts. The staff is very important in airbending, and it uses a lot of circular movements that draw power from the breath and the center of the abdomen. The first airbenders learned to airbend by watching sky bison fly around, which...
I'm sorry, did you say sky bison?
Yes. So another fun aspect of this world is its strange magical creatures, one of which is a main character in the series, the sky bison, a 6-legged, fluffy, flying bison that is adorable and amazing and gigantic, and I want one.
What's the sky bison's name?
Appa.
Appa, that's it.
I always thought that sky bison, this is weird, and this is maybe just for me, but I always thought that sky bison looked kind of like what sea monkeys actually look like like the microscopic image of like a sea monkey.
The brine shrimp, Matt.
That's not super like. Well, here
Yeah.
we'll get our first picture in our image gallery here
Of a sea monkey?
of a sky bison. If I can make the image gallery work,
And also a sea monkey.
also a sea monkey. So our first image is, well, yeah, it'll be our first image. The second image is the map I'm kind of referencing when I talk about these nations. But the first image is Appa, our sky bison friend. You see two people sitting on his head, riding him like a big carriage. That's because sky bison are gigantic, and you can ride on them like a big carriage, and it's amazing. And as I said before, I want one.
They're the
where's
cat
the image?
buses of this world.
Cat buses.
Cat buses. It is in the drive. It is.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Yeah, you're good.
Sorry.
It's Avatar FT Image Gallery.
Okay, let's pick it up at they're the cat buses.
They look not unlike a cat bus. And actually, the creators cite Studio Ghibli as a main influence on Avatar.
Of course they do.
In addition to
love-
Star Wars and Harry Potter.
I love Appa's like fat, dumpy face. He's so adorable. He's so fucking cute. It's just like I love when people create characters like this only exists so it can be a plushie.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's it's what I've come to know as the Baby Yoda effect.
Yeah, 100%.
I did a little Googling. I said sea monkey. I met tardigrade. Tardigrade was the
Oh,
microorganism.
yes,
I was
that
looking
is better.
for. That's my bad.
Do look like tardigrades, very much so. So yeah, sky bison fly via airbending, and then the first human airbenders learned from watching sky bison. And we say
and
the first
Appa's
human,
a big flying downvote.
yeah, and he is a big flying downvote. And we say human airbenders because the air nomads do recognize each animal that bends as the first bender of their type, because air nomads are very spiritual and connected to the world, and that's their whole thing. I will direct everyone then to our second image very quickly. It is a map of the world. I talked about the North and South Pole. Those are the light blue land masses at the top and bottom of that map. And then it's kind of hard to see, but each of the air temples are on the white islands kind of around the outside of that map. So yeah.
Cool.
Where was I?
After the pictures of the tardigrade.
Oh, yes. So, air is the element associated most with freedom, and airbending is mostly a defensive and evasive kind of martial art in this world. Air nomads are inherently pacifist, so to attack, to injure your opponent would be imposing some amount of not freedom on them. So they mostly just deflect attacks and run away.
I'm gonna tell that to somebody the next time I punch him in the face. Like, I'm imposing not freedom on you, not freedom on your nose.
There's a better way to say that idea, but I've been typing notes all day and I can't think. So here we are. As I said, air nomads are the most spiritual nation, tribe, whatever we're calling this sovereignty. And therefore, every air nomad is an airbender, when that is not the case for other nations and their bending. So like not every water tribe member can waterbend. It is a special thing there. Same with earthbending and firebending. Every air nomad is an airbender. In the events preceding Book 1 that we talk about today, the Fire Nation, the next nation we'll talk about, committed a genocide against the air nomads, wiping all of them except one out in hopes to disrupt the Avatar cycle. And they killed all the airbenders and all the sky bison, or so they thought.
Done did a genocide.
Did a genocide.
Okay,
This is,
so that answers the question earlier. Like, do they know that the Avatar is coming? That they knew that the Avatar was coming, and that's what they wanted. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. This is the second flavor text I'm doing of a kids property that manages to very really talk about war, genocide, and like PTSD and super dark elements too. So it's a theme in the show, in the types of media I enjoy.
Funny where the Fire Nation is placed in this world map.
Yes. So we will move on to the Fire Nation, which, if you look at the map, is a series of islands called the Fire Islands on the eastern side of the map.
Western.
Coincidentally placed on the map about where the American continent is.
Specifically, the American South, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you want to read into that, but that is... These are the facts as
Notorious,
I'm giving them to you.
Notorious volcano hotbed, the American South.
So the Fire Nation is a military monarchy located along the equator in a series of volcanic islands known as the Fire Islands. The Fire Nation draws a lot of varied inspiration. Fire Nation and Earth Kingdom are both the largest sovereignties in this world, so they draw from a few more inspirations than the other two. The islands very closely resemble the volcanic islands of Iceland, while the aesthetic and culture is more derived from like imperial Japan and China. And the age we see in this story very closely resembles like pre-World War I-II Japan specifically. Okay. The imagery of the air nomad genocide strongly evokes the firebombing Japan did in World War II on China.
Not to completely make this a Studio Ghibli cast, but this reminds me a lot of Princess Mononoke. This is exactly the Iron Kingdom.
Yes. Like I said, very heavily cite Studio Ghibli as inspiration for this show. So you're not wrong. Firebending techniques are mostly based on Northern Shaolin martial arts. If you see probably what you imagine as like karate or martial arts in general as a dumb American, very close, very close to firebending. A lot of strong movements, very like technical strikes and like swift maneuvers. It is the most aggressive style of bending, and fire is the element of like power or will, depending on where the philosophy lands, because they have kind of two different, they have like the military might of like fire is about power and anger and rage, and then like the much more like true to its original form of like fire is about passion and willpower. And so depending on which Fire Nation member you ask, you might get a different answer. The first firebenders derived their techniques from raw energy bending, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The first ever human bender was a firebender. And then they learned energy bending from the spirits in the spirit world, which again, we'll get to. And then later refined into firebending from watching dragons, which is awesome.
Neat.
Are there? Wait, I'm sorry. As like someone who's just not that familiar with all the source material, were there dragons in Avatar?
You got out of the show before you hit the dragons, but
Gotcha.
Dragons do show up.
Really did it to myself, didn't I?
To jump ahead a little bit, Uncle Iroh has the nickname the Dragon of the West.
Is he a dragon?
Because he
no, he's an uncle.
He's an uncle. He that's a title you earn in the Fire Nation, Dragon of the blank, by going out and killing a dragon.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's so rad.
Yeah.
If it means anything, I blame M. Night Shyamalan for me checking out early.
I also blame M. Night Shyamalan. Firebenders are the only benders that generate their element through manipulation of chi. So like airbenders need air to push around, waterbenders need water, etc., etc. Firebenders make fire. They like shoot fire. They don't just control already existing fires, but like exert their life force out of them and make fire, which is awesome. It makes them a little OP and is very cool. The whole origin of bending, which is covered in the Legend of Korra series, is a twist on the like Prometheus myth that pervades every culture of like taking fire or knowledge, whatever you want to call it, from the gods.
Oh, okay.
The whole origin of bending is a twist on that. So firebenders draw their power from the sun, although through the main plot of the first 3 books, the driving conflict is that there is a comet coming that will increase firebenders' powers 100-fold. So the sun or a big flaming rock passing through the atmosphere will...
That feels very hand wavy. Comet and star are not the same thing, Fire Nation.
And the last appearance of this comet was actually the force the Fire Nation needed to carry out the air nomad genocide. So 100 years ago, the comet passed through, and they used their increased power to go and wipe out every air nomad. Dark stuff. And then the Earth Kingdom is the largest and most like populated sovereignty. It operates as a monarchy, either under a king or queen, and the monarch's power has fluctuated over the years. So like where the Fire Kingdom is like a strict military monarchy hierarchy, this is a little more like there's a king and maybe a parliamentary power of some kind, and they kind of have to negotiate a little more.
This is like Europe. This is just Europe.
It's China, actually. Like the Earth Kingdom is more China. Gotcha. And like the earlier dynasties of China, not just not current Communist Party China. A large portion of the series does take place in the Earth Kingdom and its like surrounding cities and villages, just because it is like the biggest landmass on the world. Earthbending is based off of the Hung Gar martial art, focusing on like strong contact and like very stable stances. It is a style based in endurance and patience, and is the element of substance. And earthbending was first passed on to humans by studying badger moles, which are giant badger moles that dig through the like earthbend to dig through the earth and create like little homes underground.
So in this universe, anything that like interacts with the world is a bender. Like, are birds airbenders? Is that what you're saying?
No, there are normal birds, and there are like more normal animals. So like your nicknames at the top of the episode were all some animals from the world, and like an otter penguin doesn't do any special kind of bending. It's just like a goofy looking penguin with an otter face in this world.
Sure.
Like, so they're not all benders. The ones I specifically listed do bend. Those dragons, badger moles, and sky bison. And I will direct
all equal footing.
All equal footing. I will direct you to our image gallery for a picture of a couple badger moles.
All right, so you said that otter penguins don't do anything special, but I Google image search otter penguins, and what they do special is they're the cutest fucking thing on the face of the planet.
That is true. And you can ride them like sleds. They're about sled sized. So
that rips.
Let me drop an otter penguin here into our image gallery as well, so that you can all enjoy this.
I think one of my favorite things of Avatar when I was watching it on TV was the scale of everything. You know, like it's funny after we just watched Eternals and everybody's talking about like, the scale of the movie. And I was like, that's kind of a weird thing to point out. But now that I'm looking back at these pictures from Avatar, I remember thinking like these animals are so massive. It makes people feel a much different size. It's just a much more interesting way to look at the world around you.
One of the very cool things about the show, and like one I think not a lot of people would think to talk about, is that like this is a very well developed world. You see most of the world through these first 3 books as well, and it all feels very lived in, very well thought out, and like the stuff that doesn't quite make sense, you chalk up to a kid's show, and then like everything else, you're like, oh yeah, that's a cool way to use this cute animal that they like made up for the show. Like the world building in this show is incredible, and definitely a big part of its appeal.
This I don't know if this resonates with any of you guys, maybe not, but this has always played really well with me because it plays on the very tired but still worthwhile JRPG trope of the fire, water, wind, earth, quad force, if you will.
Yes.
Because in every Final Fantasy game before 6, you're going to the fire nation, the water country, the earth country to get the fire crystal, the water crystal, the wind crystal, So that has always like really rang true for me as a big old JRPG nerd. I like when you can set up a world that is like kind of one note like this, but you can kind of infer like, oh, well, an entire country based on Earth, well, they're probably going to have the most amount of land, and they're probably going to be like their stance is very defensive, and you know what I mean. Like I like that it all fits very nice and clean, and like
this show is a very great example of like the concept in art or whatever, that like nothing is original. It's how you put these unoriginal ideas together that make it original. Nothing is new. There's nothing new about this show. It's just it's all the parts that it borrows are put together so well that it feels very new and fresh.
Yeah.
And
well said.
Even though it is at the end of the day, it is a very predictable, by the books, by the numbers anime. Like there's no getting around it. It is an anime-ass anime. Yeah. And but it's very good and very enjoyable in that way. Who's ready to get into the plot?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So the whole show takes place over 3 seasons. It breaks them up into books, and each book is each book is named for the element Aang needs to master in that season. So book 1 is water. Book 1 opens with 2 water tribe siblings, Katara, a waterbender, and her brother Sokka, a young warrior in training. They are about 12 and 14, I believe. Katara's a little younger than Sokka. Sokka, it was like on the cusp of being a man in his tribe or whatever. They get lost while fishing and start to bicker like siblings do. While bickering, Katara loses control of her emotions and water bends a little bit, and dredges up this giant iceberg and water bends it open, basically, revealing through a huge gust of wind and a giant beam of light a 10-year-old boy. So a big gust of wind blows out of this iceberg, a giant beam of light shoots into the sky, and a glowing bald boy covered in blue arrow tattoos and orange robes kind of floats down and lands among them, as well as his flying sky bison Appa.
They just jump right into it.
They jump right into it. Aang immediately wakes up and starts goofing off and airbending. Something that Katara knows hasn't been a part of this world for 100 years, since the Fire Nation killed every airbender. Katara believes that they might have found the mythical avatar who has been missing for about the same amount of time. And they go back to their tribe to be like, hey, we found the avatar.
My brother and I had a fight and I discovered God.
Yeah.
So I don't remember. Is this they're looking for the avatar is known to be missing, like not presumed dead? Is that the idea?
So it has been 100 years since the last avatar has
Right.
been seen. It's kind of this myth, at this point where like
Okay.
the Fire Nation believes that they succeeded and like stopped the avatar cycle from continuing. The people oppressed by the Fire Nation kind of hold on to this hope that one day the avatar will return and liberate them. But like similar to the Jedi at the beginning of Star Wars, it's been long enough that like enough people think it's a myth, enough people forget that it ever existed, that only children would be so foolish to believe that they found the avatar.
Okay.
Noted.
Which leads us to the introduction of our next characters. Nearby on a lone Fire Nation warship, we are introduced to disgraced Fire Nation prince Zuko. And I've got a picture of Katara and Sokka, as well as the iceberg in our gallery. And here is Zuko.
Oh yeah, that's right. The iceberg is sick looking.
Yeah, the iceberg's
Really cool.
iceberg is super
Forgot
rad.
about that.
And here comes our moody edge boy Zuko, in all his teen angsty glory, with that sick burn scar on his eye, which we'll cover. Zuko is in the set, so Zuko is with his equally disgraced uncle Iroh, and the two of them have been kind of trolling the world, looking for any sign of the avatar that he may capture the avatar and bring him back to his father to restore his honor. Zuko will proceed to talk about his honor every chance he gets for the remainder of the series. It's his whole defining characteristic is my honor. His father being monarch and tyrant of the Fire Nation, Fire Lord Ozai. Zuko sees the beam of light sent up by Aang's release, and certain that it is the Avatar, directs his warship to follow it. He tails Aang, Katara, and Sokka back to their tribe and attacks this like poor downtrodden tribe of old women and kids, and threatens to kill any of the remaining elders until the Avatar reveals himself, assuming that because 100 years has passed, that one of these old people in the tribe is the Avatar.
Right.
So when Aang is like, I'm the Avatar, I'll go with you, please stop hurting these people, they kind of can't believe it. But Aang does that. He goes with them, and Katara and Sokka take Appa and follow the warship to rescue Aang. And a battle ensues. They catch up with the warship, a battle ensues, and in a moment of distress, Aang starts to glow. His eyes and tattoos that cover his body specifically start to glow again in that same blue light that has erupted from the iceberg. And then in addition to the airbending we have seen, Aang then also water bends, confirming to Katara and Sokka that he is in fact the Avatar, the only person who can control all four elements. It's
cool.
Very, very cool. That's the first 2 episodes of the show, setting up the whole deal. All our main characters introduced, nice and fun.
I vividly remember liking Katara and never liking Sokka. Is that common?
Sokka grows on you.
Yes, okay. I was gonna say that I recall by like the last episodes I was watching, Sokka grows on you and gets a sweet sword made out of meteorite.
Sokka starts.
Then I think he loses in an air battle.
Yeah, Sokka starts out as the like skeptical, like that's not the Avatar. Your waterbending is dumb. I need to be the man of the tribe. Starts out as a real shithead, and like over the course of the series grows and learns and becomes a true leader of his people, which is a very great arc. That's the other best part of the show is like all the characters actually have arcs, and like grow as people. It's great.
Sokka is Avatar's Cyclops.
Sure. Yeah.
No, he's not. That's what I always mapped it onto. He's a big boner that kind of gets redeemed and becomes a leader.
Yeah, I guess
I think
so.
that's fair.
There we go. Thank you.
I was going more like Xander from Buffy.
That's also
Watch Buffy.
also a good comparison. And
Well, the whole thing is he doesn't have powers, does he?
no, he's not a
Yeah.
bender. Yeah. Let me drop an image here of Aang and his glowing eyes and tattoos, so we can all appreciate how cool it is when he does that as well.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
Now, does everybody in the air, do all they know air nomads have downvote tattoos? Or
Yeah, they don't like ever explain why exactly. They're just like, yeah, it's our thing. Like as you master airbending, once you cross one of the thresholds of mastering airbending, you get your tattoos. It's
okay.
also derived from practices of Buddhist Tibetan monks.
Fine.
Yeah. So while Aang is captured, Zuko exposits to him and reveals to Aang that he has been missing in that iceberg for 100 years and is the only thing that his father, Fire Lord Ozai, considers a real threat to Fire Nation dominance. So Aang kind of starts to stop goofing off so much, realizes his destiny, and agrees to go with Katara and Sokka to the North Pole in order to learn waterbending from some true waterbending masters. The South Pole does not have any at this point in time because of the Fire Nation. The Fire Nation came in and kidnapped any waterbender in the South Pole and imprisoned them. So they begin their long journey north, flying on Appa over the Earth Kingdom specifically to get to the North Pole. Their first stop on their journey, however, Aang wants to stop at the nearby Southern Air Temple and go visit all of his air nomad friends that he hasn't seen for 100 years, because he still hasn't wrapped his head around the concept of a genocide.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard thing for a 10-year-old to grasp, Kyle.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big ask.
You're not kidding. So they land at the Southern Air Temple, and it's this great, huge, temple with, fields where they played, airbending soccer, and, nice, cool tubes that they'll, shoot messages through and do all kinds of goofy airbending stuff with.
Like Tibetan monks do.
Like Tibetan monks do.
They love their reindeer games.
So they get to the temple, and the first thing Aang notices is there's no one there. Normally he's normally we would have flown by herds of sky bison in the sky. I wonder where everyone's at. That's weird. Come on, I'm gonna go show you my old room. And they land, and he runs in and is just so happy to be in the air temple, and Katara and Sokka are behind him when are we gonna tell him? The whole time they just have this air of Aang, maybe you shouldn't get your hopes up that your friends are here. It's been 100 years, right? And he's yeah, air nomads live a long time though. We're real spiritual people. We live healthy lives. There'll be someone here. So he's going through and playing around and doing the whole old stomping grounds thing when he discovers the skeleton of his old airbending master. Just in the rubble somewhere, he finds this skeleton, all the airbending robes, and he recognizes it as his old airbending master. And it suddenly dawns on him what everyone has been telling him about the air nomads at this point, and he snaps and goes into the glowy blue state again, just whipping up this tornado of wind around him in his anger.
And then he says, "What am I? Some kind of the Last Airbender?"
Because of where he's at, because he finds this body in the innermost sanctum of the air temple surrounded by all these statues of past airbenders or past avatars. I'm sorry. He finds it in like a sanctum specifically dedicated to avatars. In his glowing state, all of these statues of past avatars, their eyes and distinctive features all start to glow as well, which then leads to we are shown scenes of like other temples across the whole world, including in the Fire Nation, start to glow as well, revealing to the whole world that yes, the Avatar is still in fact alive and a powerful presence in this world, because he's influencing these statues miles and miles and miles away.
So the glowy eye thing, that's his avatar power?
That is like specifically, it's called the Avatar state. There are rules associated with it, which is like the whole focus of Book 2 Earth, which we'll get into. But for now, we know it's like a heightened state of power, and he is able to start controlling some of those other elements he hasn't yet mastered while in it.
Got it.
So that all happens. Meanwhile, Zuko, we're gonna do a lot of meanwhile Zuko and Iroh asides, because they're like also main characters to this story. They're not are bad. Each season has its own bad, and then like Zuko and Iroh as well, which is a very cool relationship to have to our main characters.
In a way, it's kind of like Team Rocket. Like,
yeah,
they are a pervasive force of not necessarily good yet.
Yeah. But when you need them to, they always manage to come in clutch. So Zuko and Iroh are off getting their ship repaired from when Aang, like, he waterbended some icebergs into it, damaging it so they can escape. So they're off getting it repaired, and they run into ambitious Fire Nation officer, Commander now, later Admiral Zhao, who is our big bad of the season. Admiral Zhao hopes to now beat Zuko in finding the newly revealed avatar and like use it to frog leap his career far away from where he currently is at. He is the big bad. He's nice and evil and sinister, and you're immediately aware like, oh, Zuko's not the bad guy. This guy is.
It's still a kid's show.
Yeah, it's still a kid's show. So the gang now continues north, stopping in various Earth Kingdom cities it's always to rest, and then they end up helping out locals. And
they find a side quest.
Find a side quest. Early episodes of an anime filler. So these episodes do have the benefit, like the cool thing that this show does that most other shows of its caliber don't always accomplish is like these episodes all work to help establish like the effects of the Fire Nation occupation on these poor Earth Kingdom villages. In all 3 of these seasons, there is one episode that fans would consider filler. There's one episode that you could cut and like nothing to the main plot would be lost. Everything else drives home some further point of like the atrocities of this war.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier. I mean, that's world building. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't have to be, unlike say like One Piece, where like One Piece is all about the characters, like the Straw Hats. Like the world is just kind of like, the world's covered in water. This doesn't feel like that.
Yeah. Like what, for example, one of these earliest episodes, they happen upon a village where like there aren't any men in town. Every male especially Earthbender, has been kidnapped and taken to a Fire Nation prison. And they spend the whole episode like also getting into this prison to break them out, to give this Earth Nation some of its like fighting chance back. And it does a very good like it's just such a good setup of like the Fire Nation, like war has an effect on these people. Like this town has no men, and that leads to poverty in the town, and like does all this to establish like how bad imperialism and war actually are in a kids show. It's very great.
Also, I love that every time you've written gang, you spell it G, uppercase A, lowercase a, N G.
It is, yeah, gang spelled like Aang, the main character. It is the shorthand Tumblr came up with when the show was popular to talk about Aang, Katara, Sokka, and the other cast of characters who we have not yet incorporated into the group. So we do a couple of these like one-off, like land in a town, solve the problem, yay, thanks, Aang, bye episodes. When we get to the winter solstice, so the gang find themselves in a town that is being terrorized by a forest spirit because the nature of this world, the winter solstice, is one of the days like the spirit world closely impasses upon the physical world. So more spirity shenanigans happen closer to the winter solstice. Being the bridge between the two worlds as Avatar, Aang is kind of tasked with like restoring balance and helping this town out, even though he doesn't know anything about that. He's never been told like, hey, as an Avatar, you're also the bridge between our world and the spirit world. He was just like, he only knew the like mastering the four elements part of it. So that first night they're in town, the Aang waits for this spirit to come to try and like talk it down, fight it off, something. He doesn't know what to expect. And it shows up. It's this, big like 6-armed panda looking spirit. He does a little airbending that doesn't do anything to it and follows it back into the woods. But in following it into the woods, he actually passes into the spirit world and gets lost in the spirit world. The Sokka and Katara come out the next morning and are like, oh, we didn't get attacked. Aang, you did it. You fought off the spirit. And it's like, wait, where's Aang? Where'd he go? They can't find
beans.
Yeah. Appa can't like smell him out. He's like vanished from the face of the earth because he's in the spirit world. He is, while in the spirit world, Aang is visited by a spirit dragon that touches. It's one of those like Chinese dragons with the long snake body and the whiskers, and it like touches its whiskers to his head and shows him a Fire Nation temple and impresses upon him that he should get to that this specific room in the temple by winter solstice.
Gives him a waypoint.
Gives him a waypoint, flashes these images across his face, and then sends him back to the physical world where Aang kind of like wakes up and he's like, we've got to go to this Fire Nation temple.
Let me mark it on your map.
So they go to this temple. They break in because Fire Nation. And when Aang finds the chamber dedicated to the previous Avatar like he was supposed to, the solstice happens, the stars align, and this like he stands in the right place, a beam of light shines through the window and like hits him in the head, and he's taken to the spirit world again, where he's immediately met by his past life, the previous Avatar to him, Firebender Avatar Roku, who dumps the whole story's exposition on him. Roku tells Aang that 100 years ago, a comet passed close to Earth and increased the power of firebenders by 100 or 100-fold or whatever. And the last time that happened, the Fire Lord at the time, Fire Lord Sozin, used its power to eliminate every airbender, and that now Sozin's son, Fire Lord Ozai, plans to use the comet again to wipe out the Earth Kingdom, establishing Fire Nation dominance. Also, the comet is coming at the end of the summer. Aang has to master all 4 bending styles by then if he hopes to stop Ozai. Oops, sorry.
Uh-oh.
Ticking clock. They barely escape the temple. Roku kind of embodies Aang for a little bit to do some cool firebending and make the nearby volcano erupt, causing a distraction so they can escape. And Aang comes out of the avatar state and is like, we've determined. He's, before he was like, haha, yeah, well, I'll go train whatever. Like, I'll be the avatar, sure. And now he wakes up, he's like, we got to get to the North Pole and find a waterbending master to teach me. He's on it now.
Do we, in the conversation with Avatar Roku, do we get like the storytelling imagery of how he weaponized this comet?
Yes, you see some good shots of firebenders standing off the bridge of ships and like air zeppelins just blasting massive columns of fire down on the earth, just like raising the ground beneath them. Yeah, let me see if I can drop a good image here of some enhanced firebending.
I know that's like the apocalypse isn't great, but like, that's fucking sick.
It's not the best picture, but it's a nice big Sozend powered up blast of fire hitting the earth. So where bending normally happens on a small human-sized scale, that is like a skyscraper's worth of fire being blasted down on the earth in that image. So the gang continue north, and Katara starts actually teaching Aang waterbending, now knowing the stakes of like, we have till the end of summer to get you all caught up on your bending. Let's start now. And she starts teaching him rudimentary bending. Zhao and Zuko continue to pursue them north, and Aang and the group continue to help Earth villages as they pass through. There's a few more like story of the week, stopping in villages and helping them out. They fight off pirates. They find an advanced waterbending scroll to help them learn, etc., etc.
They find the Ben fruit.
Fruit. And that all continues until we get a particularly stormy night where it's like too stormy for Appa to fly. They gotta hunker down for the night, and like everyone stays in, so it's storytelling time again. Aang tells Katara and Sokka that on a night not unlike the one they are currently enduring, Aang ran away from the air temple and his duties as Avatar. He told them that he didn't want to be Avatar. It was revealed to him younger than it normally would have been because of the pressing imperialization of the Fire Nation. So he, at a younger age than he normally would have, was separated from his friends, immediately had to begin like advanced airbending training, and had all this pressure dropped on him as a 10-year-old. So he did what any 10-year-old would do when like faced with a whole bunch of stuff they don't want to do, and ran away. He, like I said, was a similarly stormy night. They were out over the ocean. A lightning bolt crashed too close to them, and like Appa fell out of the sky. Aang went into the Avatar state as they fell, and that created the protective iceberg that he was in for the last 100
much like
years.
how Steve Rogers did it.
Yes, in a very Steve Rogers-esque moment, Aang froze himself in an iceberg. So that kind of sets up his guilt. He initially ran away from his responsibility, so now he's owning it and going to beat the Fire Nation. At the same time, we cut to Iroh and Zuko on their warship. Again, the seas are too stormy for a warship to continue, so they very frustratingly have to hunker down for the night. And the crew starts griping to Iroh like, oh, I can't believe how moody and annoying Zuko is, because he's such a moody, annoying 16-year-old. And Iroh's like, hey, if you knew anything about him, you might have a little more sympathy, and he tells them the story of how Zuko got his scar and his dishonor. So Zuko, being son of the Fire Lord, was at the time next in line to be Fire Lord. So when he came of age, Ozai started taking him to meetings and war councils specifically. So on his first war council, Zuko immediately questioned a strategy. Specifically, there was a general that's like, we'll send in this battalion as a sacrifice so this other more skilled battalion can go in and like rout them from behind or whatever. And Zuko was like, hey, why are you sending our like honorable men to go die on a suicide mission? And his father did not like that.
So Zuko messed up because the first rule of Take Your Child to War Council Day is you have to give them enough toys that they sit there quietly the whole time.
Yeah.
Give the kid a Game Boy.
So questioning this strategy was a sign of dishonor and disobedience to the monarch god king Ozai. So the Fire Lord, to punish his son for his outburst, challenges him to what the Fire Nation calls an Agni Kai, which is an ancient Fire Nation tradition of settling conflict by a firebending battle.
Match.
Zuko goes in thinking it will be against the general who he questioned, but because the general worked for his father and it was his father's war council, he actually is going to have this firebending battle against his father, the Fire Lord, the most powerful firebender in the Fire Nation. Zuko, a literal child, immediately yields, hoping his father will be like, you've learned your lesson, like shut up in war councils going forward. But Ozai takes the yielding as a sign of cowardice and therefore further dishonor, and blasts Zuko in the face with a super strong fire blast and gives him his distinct eye scar and banishes him from the kingdom.
So he's a dick.
Yeah.
He is, in fact, a
Ozai's
dick,
a big dick. So yeah, we learn kind of the great shame of Aang and Zuko all at the same time. The storm passes, they all start moving north again, everyone with a newfound respect for their otherwise mysterious crewmate. In a following story, Sokka and Katara get sick doing something. So Aang has to go out alone to find them a medicine, and he ends up getting captured by some bandits who turn him over to Admiral Zhao. Admiral Zhao locks him in the belly of his warship and is like, I did it. I captured the Avatar. I'm going right to the Fire Nation capital to get my like super promotion as Fire Lord Ozai's like next in line. And Zuko, seeing his shot at redemption slipping away, dons this cool blue spirit mask and breaks into the boat to free Aang. Oh, that's not what I want. Let me drop a picture of the blue spirit. Zuko as the blue spirit. What's really cool about this is Zuko doesn't do any firebending while he's breaking in. He just, to help conceal his identity, he just takes dual blades and this like ninja outfit and breaks into a boat and frees Aang, and the two have to then once he frees Aang, the two have to work together to get back off the boat, and it's a big
Oh.
yeah.
I remember that mask.
It's a Noni mask. He's wearing a Noni mask.
Yeah. And it's a big the enemy of my enemy is my friend moment. They both kind of humanize each other in their own eyes a little bit more, and it's a very cool episode showing maybe Zuko isn't all bad. Blah blah blah. Everyone keeps continuing north with more adventures. They encounter a team of these child freedom fighters that are all the kids of Earth villages that have been displaced, and they've found family to each other and are doing what a group of kids in the woods can do to fight back against the Fire Nation. I only bring them up because they come back later on in the story. They go to a different air temple to find it's been like inhabited by other refugees who have like technologied it up and like use all its old like airbending pipes now as like smokestacks for their own technology. And it's this nice lesson Aang learns of like, hey, my people are gone, but like the temples don't have to sit and get decrepit. Like my ancestors would be more proud that people are using them in this new way than like letting them rot. So that's a nice, fun story. And they meet a Fire Nation defector who shows potential to be a firebending master to teach Aang once he's mastered the other two elements and is ready to learn fire. Again, only bringing them up because they all come back later on in the story.
Quick question for you, Kyle.
Yeah.
Is there a certain level of like bending that somebody has to be able to teach Aang? Like, does he have to find a master of a certain, like, does he have to find a black belt, or can a yellow belt teach him how to like bend?
We get
there.
We get there. The first one, this first book, they specifically are like going to look for a like capital M waterbending master.
Yeah.
In the North Pole. The definition of a master gets a little looser as the series goes on, and
Sure.
Aang needs to learn the other bending styles quicker, kind of thing.
So is there like a Duolingo for bending?
No, it's really like they like I said, there's like scrolls that have like different techniques on them, but like it's definitely a martial art where like you got to go and train and practice and like hone this skill. So they do some more one-off adventures, and it's all fun. And they finally arrive at the North Pole. They are introduced to Paku, the chief of the Northern Water Tribe, and the waterbending master who will train Aang. Unfortunately, he tells them he will not train Katara because he's a sexist and doesn't believe women should learn the combat side of waterbending.
Right.
There it is.
Yeah. It's he's very specifically like, no, women learn healing waterbending and I teach fighting waterbending, and I will not teach this woman waterbending. So Aang does the whole like, well, if you're not going to train her, you're not going to train me, and your nation's going to get overtaken by the Fire Nation. So you better train me. And they win him over, and he agrees, and Katara ends up becoming a waterbending master quicker than Aang. She masters waterbending while Aang is still like learning some of the more advanced stuff. Sokka, meanwhile, goes to like the war chiefs, and specifically the princess, the daughter of Paka, Yue, and begins like formulating a plan because he knows the Fire Nation is coming with a fleet of ships. He's like, I'm the only one who's like seen these warships up close. We've dealt with them. I know what's coming. You've got to listen to me, even though I'm a 15-year-old boy. And they're all like, fine. Sure.
Sounds good, 15-year-old boy. Thank you.
You're with the Avatar. I guess we got to like believe you somewhat. So the Fire Nation attacks the evening before.
As they are wont to do.
As they are wont to do. The Fire Nation attacks the North Pole the evening before a full moon. The setup being like, if we can last this night and get to the full moon, we might be able to use our increased strength to like drive back the Fire Nation and save ourselves. While the fleet approaches, Zhao and Zuko both go rogue and sneak past enemy lines into the North Pole fortress, looking for Aang. Realizing that he might need some help, Aang goes to like the North Pole, like the center of the North Pole, to talk to the ocean and moon spirits, because the North Pole is like a spiritual center of this world. It's this like the North Pole is this big icy like tundra, and then the spiritual center is like this oasis of like green life, and it's warm there. Like they all make
Santa Claus is there.
Santa Claus is there, and he goes to this oasis to find this small pool of water with two fish swimming in a continual circle around each other, and he is told
making a yin yang.
Making a yin yang, and he is told like these two fish are the moon and ocean spirit, taken form on Earth. That is the only way like it work, like everything about tides in the ocean work, is if these two are here as these fish forever swimming around each other. It's the whole basis of like water bending. It's the whole basis of the tides go in and out. No one can explain it. These two very small, like fragile fish.
It's not Avatar inspired, but I have a yin yang koi fish tattoo.
Nice.
Fun fact.
These are koi fish. Yeah. A black one and a white one specifically. So Aang goes and talks to the spirits, and he learns like, yes, the full moon will increase the waterbender's powers, and like you as Avatar will get that increased power as well. Blah blah blah. You should be able to fight off the Fire Nation with that increased power. When who wouldn't you guess it? Zhao shows up in the oasis and kidnaps the moon spirit.
Ah, dang.
Does he just like pluck out the fish? He's like, oh, my fish now.
He gets a bag. He scoops it out with a bag. Literally.
It's like being at the state fair. Like, I want myself a moon spirit. Throw a ping pong ball in a cup.
And it gets better. So like it's just Zhao and the gang in the North Pole. They kind of cut him off, and they're like, "You're not going to get out of here. We got you surrounded." And he's like, "Oh yeah," and he like fire blasts the fish and kills it. So
oh no,
Zhao kills the moon, quite literally.
Whoa.
The moon goes like red, like lunar eclipse red, and all waterbenders immediately lose their ability to waterbend.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Bummer. Super cool moment, super great villain move, and all seems lost, blah blah blah, when Yue, who had been like palling around with Sokka, Princess Yue, had been palling around with Sokka, comes out and exposits like, when I was a sickly baby as a child. I was born. My parents thought I was going to die, so they took me to the moon spirit, or they took me to the ocean and moon spirit, and the moon spirit, gave me life. She's like, it, and my father promised that someday I would have to return the favor. Well, this is that moment. And Princess Yue literally like dissolves back into the moon, and the moon spirit fish is back in the water.
I just remembered my favorite line from this that just like popped into my brain. My favorite Sokka bit.
You wanna do it?
I do. It was if I recall correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was like some kind of romance between Sokka and Yue, right?
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly the words, but it's something along the lines of like, I finally get a girlfriend, and then she turns into the moon.
Yeah. There's this whole like romance set up between Sokka and Yue, and they do the semi like Aladdin thing where he's like, "Oh no, you're a poor waterbending like nobody, and I'm a princess, so I'm betrothed to this other guy." And he's like, "I don't care, we'll run away together." And they're all ready to do it, and then she's like, "No, I have to go."
But wait, I'm the moon.
I have to go be the moon. Awesome.
And they call back to it a few more times throughout the show, where like Zuko, or where they talk about lost loves in their life, and Sokka like looks mournfully up at the moon in the sky.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah, it's real good. So Yue turns into the moon. All the waterbenders get their waterbending power back, and they're stronger because now it's the full moon, like fully realized. Aang goes into the Avatar state, and teams up with the ocean spirit and like becomes this big conglomeration of like living water and just like wrecks the whole Fire Nation fleet, driving them off. Zhao is killed. It is heavily implied that Zhao dies a very violent death, and
Sick.
yeah, it's very, very sick. Zuko and Iroh are once again disgraced for defying Zhao and losing and whatever, and have to go, tails tucked between their legs, go back to sailing around the world in their boat, hoping to one day capture Aang again and restore their honor.
Well, the kicker, sorry, the kicker about all of this scene is I watched this before the movie.
Yeah.
And this is what the movie builds to.
Everything I just laid out is the plot of that M. Night Shyamalan movie. The first full book. Yeah.
And this whole like teams up with the ocean spirit thing is the dopest part of the first book.
Oh.
And I remember watching this dumpster fire of an M. Night Shyamalan movie, and I was like, you know what? At least we're gonna get what I would come to know as a kaiju. We're gonna get to see like this glowing blue koi fish kaiju here real soon. And then we got like a large tidal wave.
Yeah.
And the Fire Nation was like, we'll leave.
And
Bummer.
It's such a bummer because like the implication in the show is that Aang in the Avatar state is not fully in control, at least at this point. He goes very primal. He like lashes out at the closest thing kind of attacking him, and it's just always worked out so far that it's been the Fire Nation. But like this scene, the scene where he like merges with the ocean spirit is very solemn because like the ocean spirit takes over Aang and like channels through his body, and he's not in control. The ocean spirit is, and is just like killing these Fire Nation ships, which Aang is a pacifist and like doesn't like to take life. So there's like this real solemn implication there. And the show is just like the movie is just like big tidal wave and it's gone, and the Fire Nation saw that big tidal wave and left. Like
they did to the ocean spirit and Aang what Fantastic Four 2 did to Galactus as a smoke monster.
Yeah. Took all the punch out of it. So that's book one. And I think this is a good time. We'll take a quick break, and we'll come back and I'll plow through the remaining two books and kind of talk about where the series goes after the Last Airbender wraps up. So we'll be right back. Hi everyone, Kyle here to remind you of our Patreon, and just to give you a quick rundown of what joining our Patreon will get you at each tier. So for $5 a month, you'll become a card-carrying member of #ButtThwompNation, which includes access to exclusive Debate This premium feed featuring our D&D Real Play podcast, The Office Drones. Members of Buttthwomp Nation will also get access to our private Discord server, where we talk about what we are playing and watching, or share cursed memes curated from the deeper recesses of the internet. For $10 a month, you'll unlock extended podcast episodes, behind-the-scenes content, and access to community events like movie night watch-alongs. Ever wonder what watching the Nick Cage Ghost Rider over nonstop commentary by Matt would be like? Well, now you don't have to wonder anymore. And if you really want to spread the Debate This love, you can join our $25 monthly tier to commission your very own flavor text. Anyone that stays at this tier for 3 months will be eligible to dictate our next lore deep dive. You want a book report on the deeper story behind 7-Up's cool spot? Great. How about a dramatic reading of Sonic fan fiction? Also great, and a little gross. And for the rest of the month of October, if you become a new patron or move up a tier, you will receive a special spooky Debate This sticker to help sweeten the deal. And now, back to the show. Okay, we are back, and we are going to move through the rest of the story here, diving right into Book 2, Earth. So, Book 2 opens immediately following the siege of the North Pole, as it's called, with the gang headed back to Omashu, a Earth Kingdom city they had visited it early on in book 1. The important thing to know about Omashu is that a very old earthbender friend Aang had before he was in the iceberg now reigns over that city as its like he's called King Boomy, but it's more like a governor of the city. So the
King
twist
Boomy.
King Boomy. It's a very fun episode where Aang is where they meet this crazy old man, and it's finally revealed by the end of the episode that Aang it's the guy Aang knew as a kid, but he's 100 years older now.
Mm-hmm.
So he in that episode is like, once you master waterbending, come back, I'll be your earthbending teacher. So they start.
I don't mean to like get ahead of the story, but I Google image searched King Boomy, and he looks like a Loki variant.
Yeah, go ahead.
And that's very important to me personally.
Go ahead and drop him in that image bar.
Yeah, I will do.
King Boomy is awesome. So they start to head back to Omashu so Aang can like train earthbending with King Boomy. The first thing
He totally
I remember
does.
this. Okay, this is
Yeah.
it's coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, it's all coming back to me. So they immediately like head back to the Earth Kingdom and meet up with this Earth general who is like, yeah, great. You're the Avatar. We'll be your military escort to Omashu. But while we're on the way, wouldn't it be cool if you didn't have to master all 4 elements and instead mastered using your avatar state? Like, you know how you get super powerful when you're in the avatar state? What if we skip learning the elements and just focus on that? And Aang is kind of like, sure, I guess. I'm 10. That sounds like good logic to a 10-year-old. He's a little skeptical, but like is like, go for it. So they try all these like kooky things to get him to activate the avatar state. They like dress him in old avatar's clothes, like hoping it will awaken his connection to the past.
Trying to
or
make
whatever.
him achieve ketosis.
Yeah, exactly. So they do all these things, and finally they run out of ideas, and the Earth General is like, you know when it really happens? When your friends are in danger. And
There it is.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
So he immediately turns heel and like sucks Sokka and Katara into the ground and is like, you better go into the avatar state right now or I'm going to kill your friends.
I remember
And
this.
and Aang wigs out and like goes avatar state, is gonna like starts chucking like massive columns of stone around and like is gonna kill this general. So the general like frees Katara and is like, look, I didn't kill your friend. See, it was all worth it though, because you're in the avatar state right now. And Katara's like, dude, shut up and let me talk him down. Like, so that is all to set up like the power of the avatar state and to establish that like Aang isn't super psyched to control the avatar state at this point. It's dangerous. Like I said before, he goes very primal and like unwieldy. And after he almost kills this guy, once again, he's like, the air nomads raised me as pacifist. I don't even eat any meat, let alone want to kill anybody. I am not going to go in the avatar state. This also serves to set up some of the avatar state lore, which becomes important to the rest of the show. So we are told that in this episode, we are told that in the avatar state, Aang channels all of the might and wisdom and power of all of the past avatars at once. So generations and generations, there are the imagery all shows hundreds of these past avatars basically flood his body with power and give him all of their combined bending, strength, and knowledge all at once, kind of uncontrollably so. It's like a fire hose of power being channeled through your garden hose in the backyard. It is also revealed at this time that because all of the avatars are inhabiting his body at once, if anything happens to Aang while he is in the avatar state, i.e. if he dies, the all of the avatars are severed from the spirit world, and the avatar cycle ends forever.
If you die in the game, you die for real.
If you die in the game, you die in real life. Setting up the stakes of like, hey, the avatar state isn't necessarily like the cure-all to defeat the Fire Lord. You open up this vulnerability while in the avatar state. Sure, it won't come up again. Maybe. We'll see. So they kind of ditch the idea of like mastering the avatar state in this way after they meet up with this general, and are just like, no, we need to find a earthbending master so Aang can follow the process and master earthbending next. Meanwhile, Zuko and Iroh are still kind of tracking Aang when our big bad of this season, Zuko's sister, Princess Azula, shows up.
Azula rules.
And let's get a picture of Azula in the Azula.
I'm remembering that right. She's like a fan favorite, right?
Oh
I'm
yeah,
remembering that correctly?
She is a great bad guy. So the whole thing with Azula is she is this like firebending prodigy.
Yeah.
The apple of her father's eye, where Zuko was like a continual disappointment. Azula only succeeded and filled him with pride. She masters like lightning bending, which is a whole thing.
Well, that's pretty neat.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah. Azula rules and is super evil and great.
Kyle, how do they draw the line between firebending and lightning bending are pretty much the same?
It's heat, isn't it?
Plasma.
It's
Something.
heat. The logic when Iroh breaks it down to Zuko, because we start to get much more Iroh and Zuko scenes in this episode too, in this season too. When Iroh breaks it down to Zuko, it's cold, passionless fire. It's fire with all the intensity, with none of the heart to it, basically.
That's
right.
awesome and stupid and amazing.
Yeah. It's super great and dumb and is just only exists to like set her apart from Zuko when they fight, because one shoots fire, one shoots lightning. Super cool. So Azula shows up and offers Zuko this like olive branch, like, hey, Dad sent me to come find you. He heard about like what you did at the North Pole and wants you to come back, your honor restored. If you just come with me right now, Dad will restore your honor. And Iroh comes to him and he's like, hey, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And Zuko, being a 16-year-old boy, is like, no, Uncle, you're an idiot. My dad loves me and super wants me back.
My dad who burned me in the face.
So Zuko goes to Azula and like immediately she tries to capture him and throw him in like the brig of her ship. And Iroh helps him escape. It's a whole thing, and they're on the run now. Azula kind of tells him like, no, you idiot, Dad's not going to restore your honor. You're a disgrace. And I was sent to capture you and bring you back as a prisoner so you stop embarrassing the family. Leading to Zuko and Iroh abandoning their ship, their quest to find the Avatar, and like having to blend in to the Earth Kingdom as like Earth Kingdom refugees now. So they like ditch all their armor. Zuko cuts off his like hair braid and try their best to look like two normal Earth Kingdom citizens, which sets the tone for their arc in this book. So the gang proceeds. They do an adventure or two on the way to Amashu, and when they get there, they're like, yay, we did it, we got to Amashu. And then the sight gag is like immediately smoke starts pouring out of the top of the city and Fire Nation banners fall from the buildings, and they're like, what happened?
Oops.
And like very quickly they see Boomy like being like carried out of the city in chains and in a prison cart. And he's like, yeah, sorry, Aang, they got the city. You're gonna have to find a different earthbending master. And he like specifically says, like, he gives him a quick lesson in earthbending and is like, you want to find an earthbending master who waits and listens before striking, because while it seems earthbending is about strength, it's actually about patience. Like, you know, a stone waits for its moment or whatever. Who cares?
Something proverb, something.
So they fly off pondering that information. Like, what are we going to do? We got to find Aang a new earthbending master now. Who is that going to be? While they fly over this swamp, and this like weird tornado comes up out of the swamp they're flying over and pulls Appa down into it. And the whole group gets separated and thrown across this swamp, which immediately reveals that it's like another spirit adjacent place in this world. They all start seeing some spooky stuff. They all are separate and like have their own weird spirit visions in this swamp. Sokka sees Yue and like comes to terms with the fact that he lost his first love or whatever. I forget what Katara does, but Aang sees this vision of a little girl and gets a feeling that is important somehow, because spirit shenanigans.
Okay.
At the same time, Zuko and Iroh fully frustrated with each other. Zuko still believing that like there is a way to restore his honor to his father. Iroh being very insistent, like, hey man, that road is closed to you now. You should just try and like, we need to make the most of our lives as they are. Zuko and Iroh split up, and Zuko goes off on his own like life adventure. Iroh tries to establish a tea shop in the Earth Kingdom and succeeds, because Iroh is awesome. So the gang gets out of the swamp. They go looking for an earthbending master for Aang, and being a group of two like teenage boys and a teenage girl, decide the best place they are going to find an earthbending master is in like this underground WWE style earthbending competition.
Hell yeah.
They see a flyer for it. They're like, hey, it's an earthbending competition. There will be some powerful earthbenders there, right? And they
Certainly
go and
we could find a master at Fight Club.
yeah. So they go and watch the Fight Club, and there are certainly a lot of very like big muscly earthbenders participating.
Abomination shows up. It's so weird.
Yeah, right.
There's a Macho Man Randy Savage impression that happens. It's all real. It's all great and real. But
really? Was that a joke? I should know whether or not you were joking, but I don't.
There is a like Macho Man Randy Savage adjacent character.
Great.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
He calls himself the Boulder, and he talks about himself in the third person. And he shows up.
great.
And he shows up more than once throughout the series. He comes back to help Aang at the end. But the one that wins and the one that like sweeps the competition is the Blind Bandit. This little girl who looks not too dissimilar from Aang's spirit vision in the swamp, who is blind and just like absolutely wrecks each other competitor in this competition. And she does it by waiting for them to strike, listening to hear where they're going to strike, and then like counterattacking and tossing them out of the ring. An earthbender who waits and listens before striking. Everyone say it with me.
The power of friendship.
The power of friendship.
The friends we made along the way.
So they go introduce themselves to the Blind Bandit. They're like, hey, great opportunity for you. We're with the Avatar. We want you to be his earthbending master. And she is like, absolutely not. Get the hell away from me, and leaves. And they're like, what? Why would anyone turn down this opportunity to go on an adventure with the Avatar? They follow her home, and they find out that she is the daughter of a prominent like Earth Kingdom family. Her name is actually Toph Beifong. The Beifong family being this like rich earthbending family. Who cares? But the reveal is that she is actually blind, and her family coddles her and babies her and won't let her do anything because they're like, oh, our poor blind little girl. They don't let her earthbend at all, even though she wants to earthbend at home. They don't let her like walk around the grounds alone at all. She's just always under watch and key, and she like just escapes to go to the earthbending competitions to flex her earthbending. It is revealed in this episode that she is such a good earthbender because since she can't see, she is more able to accurately feel things happening around her through her earthbending. So like whenever someone steps on the earth, she feels it in an echolocation style visual, and it makes her a better earthbender because she's got to wait for all of her opponents to react, and then she reacts to counter them. And it's the whole thing Bootme told Aang when he said what you need to find in an earthbender.
Do you guys think that like script writers just think that every blind person is Daredevil?
I was gonna say big Daredevil energy.
Yeah.
Big Daredevil energy. The cool thing they do with Toph throughout the series, though, is like actually have her blindness come up from time to time and put her in situations where like that echolocation is nerfed for whatever reason, and like don't make it a 100% catch-all. Like, oh, she's blind but actually can see. Like, she is actually still blind from time to time.
Yeah.
It's not.
I remember Toph very much being my favorite character.
Yeah,
Throughout the whole thing.
Toph is a fan favorite. She's very tomboyish, very, very boastful. The fun bit of trivia is that the character they originally concepted to be the like earthbender of the group was this big, muscly, macho man type. And they changed it to Toph, but they didn't change anything about the personality of the character. It's still the same.
Oh,
like,
I love that.
Yeah,
That
it's still
rules.
the same character, big, boastful, and like kind of a big like brute, but now it's this little girl, and it's very, very cool and fun. They eventually win Toph over and whisk her away from her sheltered life to go travel the world and help the Avatar. So everyone's trying to get to Ba Sing Se now. Ba Sing Se is the capital of the Earth Kingdom. I haven't established that yet, but they're all trying to get to the Earth Kingdom capital. Zuko still thinks that like if he somehow helps his father take the Earth Kingdom or capture the Avatar, his honor will be restored. Aang is trying to get there to help the Earth King stop the Fire Nation effectively. Meanwhile, Iroh is like just living his best life, making he makes a tea shop, and he makes such good tea that another rich earthbending family is like, hey, your tea is so good, why don't you come make tea for us in Ba Sing Se, and like give him a space to set up a tea shop in Ba Sing Se. So that's how he and Zuko meet back up after Zuko learns about himself or whatever. Everyone's going to the Earth Kingdom capital is the point. On the way to Ba Sing Se, the capital, the gang hear about this mythical library that's nearby. It's supposed to contain the entirety of written knowledge within it. It's the Library of Alexandria, for an comparison. Thinking they might find some key to defeating the Fire Nation, they all go in search of it. It's in the middle of this desert. They meet up with this professor who's like, I know where it is, and they fly to it and find it, and they find it sinking slowly into the sand, but there, very present.
They didn't account for the weight of the books.
Didn't account for the weight of the books.
That's what it was.
So Katara, Aang, and Sokka all decide to go inside, while Toph stays out with Appa because she's worried she wouldn't be able to see, wouldn't be able to earthbend, and someone's got to stay with Appa. So inside, the three, well, I guess it's the four. The professor that comes with them goes with them too, but he's not important. The three encounter the spirit guardian of this library. It's his collection of books. He is like, I gather information from all over the world. If you want to peruse my library, you have to offer up some piece of knowledge to contribute, and you have to promise me that you will not do any research that furthers death or war while you're here. So they all offer up their token of knowledge or whatever, and all lie and agree, like, yeah, we're not doing any war research at all. Which the whole point of them being there is to figure out a way to exclusively war research. So they're looking around. Sokka finds information about a day long ago where the Fire Nation lost their power. The Day of Black Sun, as it's called in this book he finds. And he finds this star chart somewhere in the library and uses it to deduce that on the Day of Black Sun, there was a solar eclipse that would have taken away all firebending ability, not unlike when the like lunar eclipse-y thing happened and all the waterbenders lost their waterbending ability. He then uses that star chart to find when the next instance of a solar eclipse is going to happen, and conveniently for everyone, it is before the arrival of Sozin's comet.
Yes, as the plot would dictate.
So that everyone is like, wow, great. A whole day where like no firebending can happen. We can use that to like defeat the Fire Nation before the comet comes. And then we don't even have to worry about Aang mastering all the elements and being the Avatar. Like we could just win then. Let's go tell the Earth King and like mobilize his army on that day. The spirit figures out what they're doing. He comes and is like, I knew it. You were fighting about war. All you humans are the same. All you care about is war. Blah, blah, blah. And you don't deserve access to my library anymore. And he starts to permanently destroy the library. He starts to bring it down around him.
It really is the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah. So Toph feels the library start to sink faster, and she is like doing all the earth bending she can to like kind of hold it in place just long enough for everyone to escape. Meanwhile, everyone is escaping. So it's like this tense back and forth of we cut to Toph and the library sinking, and we cut back to them escaping. And while Toph is preoccupied with stopping the library from sinking forever and losing her friends, a group of bandits arrives and kidnaps Appa.
Oh no.
Toph is unable to both like hold on to the library and protect Appa, and is weakened by the sand. The sand doesn't the nature of the sand makes her like echolocation vision fuzzy. So all she can do is hold on to the library and hope her friends get back in time. And they do, to find Appa kidnapped and gone. Aang gets really mad, blames Toph. The whole team is kind of discouraged that, like, yes, we have the Day of Black Sun. That is a bit of hope, but like, man, we lost Appa. Our way around. We're stuck in this desert with and like it's Aang's best friend. Like it's Aang and Appa were buddies growing up. They were trapped in the iceberg together for 100 years. Aang just lost his best friend. He's super pissed and bummed about that. So there's this big black cloud hanging over everyone's head. So they get out. Aang tracks down the bandits, and goes a little Avatar statey on them and threatens them, and they tell him like, oh, like we're so sorry, we didn't realize we stole the Avatar's Sky Bison. We already sold him.
Oh, and was this your Sky Bison? We thought it was another guy's Sky Bison.
Yeah. And so like, sorry, we already sold him. He's probably in Ba Sing Se right now. If you get there quick, you might be able to find him before he's sold again. He's gonna, but like we sold him to a sales, like a all at the same time, Zuko, on his life quest, meets up with those freedom fighter kids I told you about earlier, who all immediately fall in love with his like refugee alter ego. And they're like, don't worry, guy. We're going to Ba Sing Se where the Fire Nation can't get us. You should come with us. Everyone's going to Ba Sing Se. That's our
Yeah.
that's our big central meetup. We also learn Azula is working on some plot involving infiltrating Ba Sing Se, but we aren't privy to all the details of that yet.
Feeling like a real Les Miserables setup here.
Yeah. Act 1 of like, do you hear the people sing plays? And we have all our pieces in place, definitely. So they all get to Ba Sing Se, and Aang is immediately disheartened when like they tell the Earth King about what happened. They tell him about the Day of Black Sun. They tell him about Appa, and the Earth King is basically like, that's like great about the Day of Black Sun. We're not going to do anything about it. We're all safe here in Ba Sing Se. We're not going to do anything to like overextend our army. It's tough. Like we're not going to do anything with that. And also, we're not going to super do anything to help you find Appa. You might check these places out, but like, nah, we're not doing it. It's a big bummer. Everyone's kind of like defeated, and they're ushered out by the King's Guard, the Dai Li, who are this kind of an SS group, so to speak, of earthbenders, of elite earthbenders who exist to protect the king. However, we also learn that they have been infiltrated by and are now taking orders from Azula, seeking, promising them like, hey, help me overthrow Ba Sing Se, and I'll put you guys in charge.
There it is.
Yeah.
It's a sweet enough deal to go with.
Yeah. So we spend some episodes with everyone kind of spinning their wheels in Ba Sing Se, like trying to convince people to help them with the Day of Black Sun. Aang tries to find Appa. We get a nice scene of Iroh thriving in his tea shop. We get the saddest episode of anything I've ever seen, where we spend a whole episode following like what happens to Appa in between getting kidnapped and reunited with Aang.
Oh, that's not something that anybody needed.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's a big bummer, Matt.
Is that the filler episode that has no dictation on the plot?
No, that happened already. That happened in book 1.
Okay.
Because this does drive the plot. So Appa, while he is kidnapped, is first sold to a Fire Nation circus where they like
Don't like that.
No, they show him getting like whipped by firebending and forced to do tricks. And they show him in like his first show, and he like they spook him too much with fire, and he flies away. He escapes the circus, which is great. And it shows him trying to go back to the library where he last, knew that's where Aang last was. And he goes to where the library was, but it's all sunken and underground. So there's just a big crater where he had last seen Aang. So we see him like get real bummed out and like curl up in a ball in the crater, and that's real sad.
Aww.
Yeah. So he like finds some, I think it's like a wanted sign of Aang, and recognizes like, hey, that's Aang, and like follows it back to Ba Sing Se. And finds nothing there. He goes to Ba Sing Se, flies around a bit, doesn't see Aang, and he somehow ends up at the Eastern Air Temple, another air temple we haven't been to yet, where a mysterious guru comes out and is like, oh, Appa, friend of Aang, I have been waiting for you and your friend to come visit me. Wait here with me, and I will make sure you are reunited with Aang. And yeah, we cut, I think, oh no, I'm remembering this wrong. So the guru comes out and he's like, oh yeah, I've been waiting for you and Aang. Aang's not with you, so it's like not your time to meet me yet. But here's where Aang is. Go meet him. And he ties a note to Appa's horn like, hey, to Aang, like, hey, I found your bison. I hope he finds you again. Once you get him, come meet me. I'm going to help you master the Avatar state, but for real. Yeah, so mysterious guru living in the Eastern Air Temple promises to train Aang. Very cool. We cut back to the gang and Aang all trying to look for Appa, with the Dai Li in Aang's search for Appa thinks he's getting too close to their big secret that they're all working to overthrow the king. So they throw Aang out of court. They shut down any attempts he has to find Appa. The gang all break in and go to the king and are like, hey, your agents aren't working for you. They're working for someone else. You should know that. And the king believes them. Finally, they have some kind of proof. The king believes them, is like, oh yeah, Dai Li, you're all fired. Get out. You're not working for me anymore. You lose all privileges and access. So they all go underground with Azula and plot their ultimate overthrow of the Earth King. Appa shows back up. Aang reads the letter and is like, hey, this guy's going to train me. I'm going to go off and learn with him. Katara, out and about in town, stumbles upon Iroh and Zuko running this tea shop together now and flips out and is like, holy crap, the Fire Nation has done it. They've infiltrated Ba Sing Se. They're here, because she doesn't know about Azula yet. She just knows about the Dai Li. So she runs back to the king and is like, hey, you won't believe it. Iroh and Zuko are in town. They did it. They infiltrated Ba Sing Se. Only it's not the king, it's Azula. Yeah. And she told him, and she just told her right where her prime targets, like 3 and 4, are. So
wow.
And she locks Katara away, and everyone is captured, with Aang off learning the Avatar state. We get this nice episode of Aang training at the temple with the guru. He's going through all these steps of like mastering his chakras to harness the Avatar state, and going through different levels of disconnecting with the material world. Because basically it's more Buddhism of like, if you want to achieve enlightenment, you have to let go of all earthly tethers or whatever. And Aang's doing great. He's going through the steps. He's detaching from stuff, and he gets to the last one. And the guru is like, to fully master the Avatar state, to achieve true enlightenment, we have to let go of everything, including our relationships that tie us to this world, implying Katara and Sokka and Toph too. But the main one is Katara, because they've like fallen in love over the course of this series. And in a very Empire Strikes Back moment, Aang is like, no, screw this. I'm not finishing my training. I've got to go save my friends. And
he leaves. He heads back to Cloud City.
The guru's like, if you don't finish your training, you'll never beat. It's very Empire Strikes Back.
Literally just thinking like, oh shit, this is Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. I don't know if I realized how Empire Strikes Back it was until I was writing out the synopsis. I was like, wait a minute. This is Empire Strikes Back.
It super is, yeah. I mean, I didn't catch that either. I think it's just when you're putting it all together in this condensed form.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, those are all the main beats. Okay, fair enough.
So Aang goes back. He finds Katara. He frees her from whatever like prison Azula put her in, to find out that's exactly what Azula wanted. It was all a trap. And Azula and the Dai Li corner Aang, Sokka, and Katara, as well as Iroh and Zuko, because they showed up as well. And a big showdown happens. A big underground, like, crystal, earth-bending, fire-bending, water-bending showdown happens. and everyone's fighting. Zuko is like really going back and forth at this point of like, do I just live my life for myself, or do I help my sister and try and retain my honor? Blah blah blah. It looks like the gang is gonna win. They've kind of got the Dai Li and everyone on the ropes when Aang goes full Avatar state. He's gonna like finish the job, and we see this big lightning blast, and Azula blasts Aang out of the sky with a lightning bolt, and he like drops 100 feet to the ground, presumed dead.
Whoa.
Dang.
Yeah.
Cliffhanger.
It's like big Dragon Ball
God
Z
with the
energy.
power of lightning.
She killed God with the power of lightning. Katara, Sokka, and Toph like recover Aang. They get on Appa and they fly out. They escape, and we see Katara do some healing water bending on Aang, and Aang's eyes kind of flutter open. He isn't dead. He's alive. Roll credits.
As they sit in the medical frigate, they watch.
Yes. Roll credits. Everyone proceeds to have to wait like a year and a half for the next season to come out.
Yep.
Perfect.
Which leads us into book 3, Fire. Our big showdown.
At what point did the My Cabbages moment happen?
Oh, Mike. Oh, Todd.
Excellent.
I mean, it was in book 2, right?
It was in book 1.
This is in book 1.
I think it's a recurring bit. No,
It's a recurring bit.
Oh, okay.
Cabbage's guy shows up the first time they get to Amashu, is where
Okay.
Cabbage's guy is.
I just remember in like the Earth world that at some point there's a whole like cabbage scene. That's the one that sticks out to me more than anything. I did not realize it was a reoccurring bit.
Books 1 and 2 are fuzzy because they're in the Earth Kingdom so much in book
Yes.
1.
Yes.
And I forgot that because I mixed that up too. I was like, man, book 2 is really long. It's not, as most of what I remember from book 2 is actually book 1.
Well, and
Yeah.
and Kyle, you're probably going to talk about it. Book 3 is where we get blood bending, isn't it?
Well, we'll get to bloodbending.
Oh,
Todd.
baby.
So yeah, the cabbage bit shows up the first, like it's the 3rd or 4th episode.
Great,
it's the first
perfect.
time they get to Amashu, and then yes, there's this reoccurring bit of like, it starts with Aang goofing off, and he's like just airbending around the city and doing cool airbending stunts, and he like destroys this cabbage cart, and this poor merchant is
Classic.
like, my cabbages, and then it keeps coming back throughout the series where like whenever a whole cluster of chaos is happening, the cabbage guy is going to unfortunately wheel his cart in front of it. It's going to get taken out, and he's
Classic.
going to go, my cabbages. It's
great.
amazing.
I have 2 separate and completely unrelated friends who both use the phrase "my cabbages" as online screen names and personas.
As online monikers, yeah.
Yeah.
So we open on book 3. An amount of time has passed. Aang has been unconscious, recovering from his lightning bolt blast.
Does he have a beard to show that time has passed?
yeah.
He doesn't have a beard to show that time has passed, but he has
No,
grown. He has grown a full head of hair to show time has passed.
Oh.
He's wearing all black and he shows up in Jabba's palace.
Is somebody wearing glasses?
As glasses. Glasses is the one.
Yeah.
And so Aang wakes up, and he is in Fire Nation garb. He is in a Fire Nation city somewhere, and he immediately freaks out, like, "Oh no, they captured me. I'm the prisoner of the Fire Nation." And then Katara and Sokka show up, like, "No, calm down. We are hiding in the Fire Nation in plain sight." An amount of time has passed, but not so much that that the Day of Black Sun hasn't happened, and Sozin's Comet hasn't happened. And we have been while you have been recovering, we have been working on a Day of Black Sun plan. So fret not, the plan continues. You keep recovering. We also see Zuko has returned to the Fire Kingdom a hero. In that big showdown, he ultimately sided with Azula. He he I believe in that big fight is fighting Katara and Sokka maybe, and Azula goes back to the Fire Lord, and is like, yeah, your son, yeah, Zuko helped. He's on our side, and Zuko is welcomed back into the Fire Kingdom as a hero. So we proceed to kind of move through the Earth Kingdom, similar to how in book 1 they moved through the Earth King. Or did I say Earth Kingdom twice? They moved through the Fire. They moved through the Fire Nation, similar to the way they moved through the Earth Kingdom. They're in hiding. They can't fly anywhere because like Appa is the only sky bison, and would be a pretty big sign that the Avatar is like moving through your town. So they move through the Fire Nation on foot, trying to get in position to carry out their Day of Black Sun plan in time. They move through. We see a series of like, now Aang gets to see like what the Fire Nation has turned into in the last 100 years. He goes to a school and finds they're all learning like modified history of how great the Fire Nation is, and how the things the atrocities they committed totally are for the benefit of the people they did them to.
Well, that's all critical air theory.
There it is.
Sokka, we get this nice episode of Sokka feeling very left out in all the bending training that Aang is participating in, and he gets a whole arc of like, well, I'm gonna go find a fighting master and learn myself some fighting, and that, Todd, is where you get your nice episode of Sokka goes and finds this like sword master to teach him sword fighting, and then forges a sword out of a meteorite because Sokka needed something to do.
Well, and I just remember there's a scene in the third book where like they're fighting in the air and like he goes, "Oh, my sword!" Like it just flies.
Space sword.
Yeah, that's what it is. And it just flies away, and I don't know if he ever gets it back. I don't remember.
So we're moving through the Fire Nation. Zuko at this point gets the hero's welcome, and then is also dealing with his own disillusionment with the Fire Nation, having seen firsthand the effects of imperialization on the people they imperialize. Right. So he then when is the Day of Black Sun? Not yet. Okay. So we get this nice scene of Aang talking to Roku and Zuko remembering his family. And we actually learn Zuko's mom is the daughter of Avatar Roku. So Zuko has this conflicting sides of the thing of like Avatar Roku died trying to convince Sozin like, hey, don't do imperialism. It's bad. So like both those halves live in Zuko, and he's destined to pick a side at some point eventually. This is where we get our bloodbending, our spooky Halloween full moon episode.
So rad, dude.
Yeah.
The Puppet Master is the title of this episode.
Oof.
The gang meets a Southern Water Tribe prisoner, or a Southern Water Tribe woman who had been taken prisoner and escaped. And she's like been living alone near this Fire Nation kingdom, and is just like, and starts talking to Katara about like how resourceful waterbenders must be and how we can find water in unexpected places, and makes a big show out of they're standing in like a field of wildflowers, and she like rips all the water out of the wildflowers, and they immediately like die around them, and is like,
whoa.
It is sad, but like this is what we have to do if we want to survive in this world now. And she tells Katara of how she escaped Fire Nation prison by bloodbending, and what that is on the full moon, this woman was able to use the enhanced power of the full moon to blood bend the guards in her prison, literally bend the water in their blood to get them to like walk out, open the door to her cell and walk out and stand there while she freed the other prisoners and left. The gang freaks out. Is like, hey, that's kind of fucked up. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Because the town they pass through tells them this story of like, hey, every full moon, some amount of people from our village go missing. We don't know what that is. The group puts 2 and 2 together with the blood bending and the people missing. They're like, hey, these are innocent Fire Nation members. Like they didn't imprison you. And this woman is like, no, every Fire Nation member is bad, right, and what I'm doing is justified. And if you are going to try and stop me, I'm going to kill you like I killed them. And it ends with Katara saving the gang by bloodbending this woman and forcing her to forcing her down and taking her in to pay for her crimes.
This is the episode that I remember vividly.
Yeah, Katara being forever changed and unable to shake the feeling that she did in fact bloodbend another person.
Yeah, because she's still a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah.
The existence of this episode is how I know I never finished the series.
Yep.
Because I would remember if I saw this, and I don't.
You absolutely would remember it. It is an amazing episode.
There are specific moments that stick out in my brain, and this is one of them. And the other one is redirecting the lightning.
Yeah,
that moment was a big one,
and that's a big one, and that's all in book 2. The redirecting the lightning.
This episode is to Last Airbender as the Nina and the little girl and the dog episode is to Full Metal Alchemist. I think Todd knows that reference.
I think so. Is that where they yeah, okay.
The Chimera.
Yeah. Yep.
Big brother. Big brother.
I feel like Full Metal Alchemist just oscillated back and forth between this is an excellent radical moment of cool shit happening, and then the gravity of the situation here is a lot, isn't it? You guys forgot about all that, didn't you?
Full Metal Alchemist is definitely a spiritual successor to Avatar. I guess it came before, but it's like it does what Avatar does, but in a science way. It's very similar. Anyway,
so we get after the bloodbending episode, we get an episode of Aang dealing with the anxiety of being the Avatar and having a timeline that he's got to get these things done, and it's a fun break episode before the Day of Black Sun. The Day of Black Sun is a 2-part episode, which is very, very cool, very rad. The whole first episode, we finally get to see the plans Sokka has been alluding to so far in all of season 3, where all of these old allies from throughout the history of the show back up. We get the freedom fighting group from earlier. We get the underground earth bending fighters that they show. The Boulder shows back up. We get the inventing team that was in the Northern Air Temple. There's a couple other groups that didn't make it into my synopsis, but the power of friendship shows up.
It is
to assist on invading the Fire Nation on the one day they're not going to have any power. And it kind of goes off great. They load into these submarines. They slip past Fire Nation defenses. Pretty unmet so far, and they think it's fine. They think it's just because they're sneaking around so well. And then they land on the Fire Nation shore to zero opposition. There's just no armies to meet them. When they built up this big force of hey, we're gonna have to fight through Fire Nation army at some point, that's you guys. There's nothing. So they land, they kind of begin their infiltration, and they find absolutely nothing. No Fire Nation soldiers, no Azula, no Zuko, no Fire Lord. They storm the Fire Nation capital effectively, unopposed. And that is because the Fire Nation also knew about the Day of Black Sun and just kind of bunkered down. They're like, we're just gonna wait it out. Like, if you can't find us, you can't capture us. And if
Fair.
when the sun comes back, you're gonna be in the middle of our capital, surrounded by firebenders. So the plan kind of fails. They get to Azula, Zuko, and Ozai all underground and basically tell them this, like, yeah, what have you done? You found us, but like the eclipse is over in a few minutes and we're going to wreck your shit if you're still here. So they have to retreat and nothing really happens. Except we learn Zuko is there. He confronts his father. He's like, hey, did you have my mom killed, banished? What happened to mom? Why is mom gone? Because mom's been missing this whole time. And his dad's like, yeah, your mom was weak and I got rid of her. And you're weak like your mom and you're a disgrace to me and the family. And Zuko's like, well fuck you. I'm leaving. And also leaves. And this is when Zuko vows he is going to be Aang's firebending master. He doesn't join up with them right away, but he is like, I'm going to help the Avatar take you down, and tells his dad to his face when neither of them have any firebending, like, I'm going to help the Avatar take you down. I'm going to be Fire Lord, and I'm going to make this nation like actually great and what it should be. Where you're going down, and walks out, and it's awesome.
He's gonna make the Fire Nation great again.
He's gonna. I was trying real hard not to accidentally let that slip, but yeah. So the Day of Black Sun ends. The gang all kind of reconvenes at the nearest air temple, where they are attacked by some firebending assassins. Who cares? They're an obstacle at this point. They're just like another roadblock to throw in. But while they're waiting there, Zuko shows up and is like, and very awkwardly is like, hey guys, you know how I made your life hell for 2 seasons? Well, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to train Aang in firebending.
Is your favorite part of the story where enemies become friends? Because I've got great news for you.
Enemies became friends. So like the whole group is like, absolutely not. Like, what makes you think we believe you at this point? You betrayed us back in Ba Sing Se. We saw you with your father in the bunker. Like, obviously this is some kind of trick. And Zuko's like, okay, well, if you're not going to let me train you, like, take me as your prisoner then, because I'm not going back to my father. Like, this is real. Let me show you this by like paying for my crimes and being your prisoner. And slowly wins them over. Katara's still very like, I'm not so sure about you, but Aang, Sokka, and Toph are all like, well, we need a firebending teacher. He seems pretty earnest. And we're all much more powerful than we were like when we encountered him before. If he steps a toe out of line, we'll just wipe him out. So Aang and Zuko start training firebending, and Zuko finds himself unable to firebend for some reason or another. And what he realizes is that it is because forever and ever his driving force was capturing the Avatar. And now that he has he's not trying to capture the Avatar, he has no oomph behind his firebending anymore.
He's what you would call passionless fire.
Passionless fire, but also like no like cold will and determination like his sister either to prove himself. It's literally like he doesn't know what he's doing anymore, so his fire bending reflects that.
He's got depression.
He's got depression.
I mean, that's the actual answer.
Fair.
So there's a really cool episode of Zuko and Aang going off alone together to find they
Passion.
passion. They realize they're near like this ancient firebending city that is legend has that's where firebending was invented, blah blah blah. They hope to, by going to the city, they'll find some relic that will help Zuko learn the true secret of firebending. And they go, and they immediately are like kidnapped by this like ancient tribe of firebenders that they didn't know exist. And when asked why they're there, the tribe is like, "Hey, we've worked really hard to not be known. How did you know about us? Why are you here?" Aang and Zuko are like, "Hey, we're just here to learn firebending from like the true firebending masters. Zuko lost his oomph. We want to get its oomph back. We want to get his mojo back and like learn from someone who like knows what firebending originally was." And they're like, "Okay, you may do our trial, and if you pass our trial, you may meet the firebending masters, and they will train you." And the trial isn't much. It's they have to do this dance of the dragons, and like it involves them doing basically a fusion dance from Dragon Ball Z, but it's a firebend. They're actually firebending moves. They're like doing the motions, and Aang is like, "Hey Zuko, I think these are actually firebending moves, and if we like start firebending, there'll be cool firebending moves." And Zuko's like, "Yeah, Aang, I think you're right." And they do it. They like learn the dance of dragons, and they go perform it on this altar where like if they do it right, they'll firebend and the masters will present themselves. And they do. They do it right. They firebend and the masters present themselves, but the masters are not people. They're the two remaining dragons left alive in the world.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Sick.
So these are actually the two dragons that Iroh is supposed to have killed to gain his Dragon of the West title. He did not kill them when he found them. He instead learned, much in the way Aang and Zuko were about to, he learned the true meaning of firebending from them and was like, "Yeah, I'm not killing the two remaining dragons because I'm not a monster. I will tell everyone you are dead so they stop looking for you." And but yeah, they learn firebending from the last two dragons in this world. Zuko gets his groove back, and Aang has a firebending teacher who can firebend. We get a cool series of misadventures with Zuko. Everyone goes on their own adventure with Zuko. Sokka's adventure is a jailbreak double-parter.
Sweet.
They go break specifically Iroh and Sokka's second love interest out of a Fire Nation prison, and it's super rad. The prison is like on this rock, this island in the middle of a volcanic lake. So it's called the Boiling Rock because it's surrounded by boiling water, and the whole conceit is like the only way on or off the prison is a not a ferry, not a monorail, but a
skybox things.
Things. Yeah, like a ski lift, but it's enclosed.
You see him at Cedar Point. Gondola.
That's the word. So they do this whole two-parter jailbreak episode. Zuko reunites with Iroh, who has spent his time in prison doing prison workouts and getting super ripped.
I remember this.
Yeah. Zuko goes to Iroh and is like, "Uncle, I've failed you. I know you're never gonna forgive me, but like I'm helping the Avatar now. I'm here to break you out. Like, you don't have to forgive me, but like I want you out of this prison." And Iroh's like, "Zuko, I already forgave you. Like he gives him a big bear hug and they cry, and it's this big touching moment. He's like, "Zuko, I already forgave you."
The sounds of 1,000 daddy issues raged across the country.
Exactly. So that's a big touching moment. The gang has a few additional members when they go up against the Fire Lord before Sozin's Comet. Good things happen. Katara and Zuko also go on an adventure, and this one is Katara wants revenge on the Fire Lord captain that killed her mother. So the whole thing there is like Katara's mom was a waterbender. Fire Nation came into the Southern Water Tribe and killed every waterbender they could find. And Zuko is like, oh yeah, I know the guy who like would have carried out those raids. I know he's responsible and I know where he is. And Katara's like, rampage, let's go. So they go on this Fire Nation rampage where Katara just like does some of the most badass waterbending we've seen all show. They find this guy and he's like this sniveling wimp who like only was a killer because he was backed by the force of the Fire Nation, and now he's just some sniveling wimp. And we get this nice cathartic moment of like Katara being like, I could kill you, but that's not going to make me any better than you. And honestly, your life is so pathetic at this point, it's more punishment to let you live as this like cowardly worm that you are. And like,
hell yeah,
holds him at like icicle point, almost kills him, and is like, no, you're not worth it, basically, and walks away. And it's super great and awesome. And then we get our recap episode, which is the best recap episode I have ever seen in anything, where the gang goes to a theater that is telling the story of the Avatar.
I remember this as well. Yeah.
From the perspective of the Fire Nation.
Yes.
Oh, cool. It's a propaganda clip show.
Yeah, it's a propaganda clip show. And like literally the whole episode is nothing more than them watching these actors like play buffoonish versions of themselves and like being like, oh, I'm so dumb. I'm like, I'll never beat the Fire Lord. I'm the Avatar. And like, and everyone hates it because like they're like, it's propaganda against them, but it's our recap episode. And then we go into the 4-part 2-hour finale of the whole show, Sozin's Comet. So the comet arrives. Azula and the Fire Lord are like in the Fire Nation capital, like, yes, this is our moment. Fire Lord Ozai, who is voiced by Mark Hamill, I should mention.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Fire Lord Ozai is like, with this comet coming and our plan fulfilled, getting very ahead of himself, like, with our plan now fulfilled, I am no longer the Fire Lord. I am something new. I am the ruler of the whole world, the Phoenix King. So you Azula are now the Fire Lord, ruler of the Fire Nation, but I'm ruler of the whole world, the Phoenix King. It's setting up how full of himself, bigger they are, harder they fall for Ozai. Great. We then go to episode 2, where we find Iroh has gathered all of these, like, it's called the Old Masters. So it's all the, like, old skilled people they thought were going to be Aang's bending teachers throughout the series team up and take back Ba Sing Se, basically.
Oh,
so
cool.
You've got
there's a boomer caper.
It's a boomer caper.
It's wild hogs for for Avatar.
I was gonna go with another sick Ghost Rider reference of I got enough in me for one more.
It's
the
last
now I
ride.
get all of your Ghost Rider references.
You do.
It's the last ride. It's they take back Ba Sing Se, which you've got Boomy, you've got Sokka's like sword teaching master. It's Paku, the guy who taught them waterbending, Iroh, and the firebending guy that they like met in book 1 and never came back to. They all take Ba Sing Se back, and it's this big moment for Iroh, because his great shame, the reason he was disgraced was he tried to take Ba Sing Se originally years and years ago and failed. So now he took it back, but he took it back from the Fire Nation, not for the Fire Nation. So Iroh gets his redemption, and it's very cool.
Love that.
And then the comet appears, and the big fight happens. Part 3 is the war almost. It's more of like Sokka leading the resistance against the Fire Nation. This is Todd, where you get your My Space Sword scene. We get to see Toph doing cool metal bending tricks, which is a thing. Toph does cool metal bending tricks to take down these big sky zeppelins that the Fire Nation has. They do a war and start winning. Meanwhile, Zuko marches into the Fire Nation capital up to his sister, who is now Fire Lord, and challenges her to an Agni Kai to dethrone her and reclaim his honor. So we get this awesome firebending fight between Azula and Zuko. Most of it is set with like no sound effects. It's just set to this like haunting music as brother and sister effectively fight to the death. One being this amazing firebending prodigy, and Zuko with this newfound resolve to actually find his honor and like the true meaning of firebending or whatever. It's a very cool fight. Azula starts to lose to Zuko, so she breaks the rules of the Agni Kai and targets Katara, who is watching on the sidelines, with lightning, drawing her into the fight. So it then becomes Katara and Zuko versus Azula, resulting in Katara like freezing Azula in this big block of ice, and then like water bending her way through the ice to like chain Azula up while she's still frozen, and then like melts it all down, and we like leaves Azula just like drenched, powerless, and like chained up, and Zuko the victor of the Agni Kai. Honestly, it's a cooler fight than the fight between Aang and the Fire Lord at this point.
That's awesome.
We move into the finale, part 4, Avatar Aang, where Aang fights Fire Lord Ozai. Fire Lord Ozai is, fully powered up by the comet at this point. Aang has mastered the Avatar state, goes into the Avatar state, and a big fight ensues. It's, a 20-minute long fight that I'm not going to go into detail, but that's cool and bendy. Aang wins. Zuko is Fire Lord. Aang and Katara kiss, and all is right with the world. End the series.
Yay!
That's so good.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was really great. I don't remember much about... Actually, I remember more about book 3 than I thought I did.
Yeah. Book 3 moves quick, and I also found that like when I got to book 3, I remembered more of it than I thought I did, but that's just because it all goes into the next thing and kind of blurs together. But that is Avatar, The Last Airbender.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go back and watch this immediately.
I've already, you can see in my camera, I've already, you can't, never mind, that just cut my feed. I've already got it queued up.
That's awesome.
I just broke my camera. That's great. Awesome. Go.
Consummate professionals here.
Consummate professionals. So like I said, there is a follow-up series to this. Legend of Korra picks up 70 years after the events of The Last Airbender. Obviously, it is following Aang's death. A new avatar is reincarnated. It is Korra, a water tribe member. Her whole thing is that she like immediately masters all the bending. the opening shot, one of the opening shots is like toddler Korra bending all 4 elements at once. Like she has a mastery of the bending part of it and struggles with the helping people part of it. Korra does this cool thing where it time jumps, so we get all this new technology that is like based on bending and influenced by bending. So they live in this kind of industrial society where like firebenders can get like factory jobs, but the factory job is like shooting lightning into a generator to provide power for the city.
Huh.
I mean, that kind of rules.
Yeah,
A little bit.
It's very cool world building. And it also, the other thing Legend of Korra does is takes the anime knob and just dials it way up to 10. The whole like framing device for the first season especially is Korra goes to the big city and really, really, really wants to participate in what is called pro bending, which is 2 teams competing in like a capture the flag style bending competition. So like the first half of season 1 is just like excuses to show off pro bending. What with this undercurrent of like non-benders feeling oppressed by benders, like feeling unrepresented in this world of benders and being like, we got to take the power back from the benders and like get representation for ourselves as well. We are not going to go into all the ins and outs of Korra like this, because we do not want to sit here for another 3 hours, but it is a good show. It is a great follow-up to The Last Airbender, and there are people who would even go so far to say it's better than The Last Airbender, even if I'm not one of those people.
I was just going to ask if you're one of those people.
I am not. Derek is. My brother is. So, or he isn't sure if it's better than the other, but it could be in his eyes.
I mean, it's so incredibly rare that any series gets a sequel or a spinoff that can even like hold a candle to the original. So whether it's better or not, I mean, it's just cool that it's good.
It is. It does hold a candle to the original. Its biggest weakness is not its fault. It's Nickelodeon's fault. So I said at the beginning, like Nickelodeon doing the thing of like not giving a tentpole show the attention it deserves and leaving it to like live or die on its own. That absolutely happened with Legend of Korra, where the first 2 seasons aired at very inconsistent time slots when they did air. It would just be like, this one's going to be 2 Thursdays from now. And then the next one will be like the Friday after that. And then maybe the Monday, two Mondays after that. When finally, in the middle of book 3, Nickelodeon stopped airing the episodes on TV entirely. And you could only watch them as they came out a week at a time on the Nickelodeon website.
Oh, that sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they did that for book 3 and 4. And like you had to like follow the people promoting it, because Nickelodeon like stopped announcing when new episodes were coming out, and you just had to like go to the Nickelodeon website and watch it online as they came out online.
Wow. That super sucks.
Yeah.
Walking Dead did like a brief online web series, and I think I was arguably more into Walking Dead as it was airing than I have been to anything that has been happening like currently. And I didn't even watch the web series for Walking Dead, so that sucks that Nickelodeon did Korra dirty like that.
Did Korra real dirty like that. And now Viacom and Paramount have given them their own studio to prop up Paramount Plus. So hopefully they've seen the error of their ways and give any future tie-ins to the series the love that they deserve. So in addition to Legend of Korra, there was the bad movie that we don't talk about, And the creators actually managed to work out a publishing deal with a comic book publisher. I'm not sure which one it is. They used the comics to kind of fill out some stories like fans had been asking to hear throughout the whole run of the first Avatar. A big one, the comic books answer is like, what actually happens to Zuko's mom? They also do a entire Avatar Kyoshi series in the comics, which was like 2 avatars before Aang. She's kind of a warrior, an earthbending warrior type. So she's a little more ruthless in her avataring than Aang is, and they do a short series of that. If you like Avatar and are hungry for more content, the comics are a good read. It has been a while since I've read the ones that I've read and looked into the other ones, but like those are all very good stories as well, and get around a lot of the Nickelodeon tomfoolery at a time that Nickelodeon was doing a lot of tomfoolery. So that is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Rest.
Super good.
Awesome. Really,
Yeah.
really good.
Well done, Kyle.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for listening. If you want to commission your own deep dive flavor text like we just did here today, you can do that through our Patreon by being a master debater. Andrew or Matt, who is more versed in the Patreon than I, do you want to give the quick Patreon spiel?
Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/debatethiscast. We have 3 levels. Our top tier is our $25 monthly tier called Master Debater. As a Master Debater, you will not only get access to the premium feed that includes Forbogorf and the Office Drones, our D&D roleplay podcast, but you will also have access to live streams of the Plus is Loose. But you will also have access to our exclusive Discord. But wait, there's more. You will have access to everything at our $10 level, which is our filibuster sword level.
That's what it is.
Yep, that level will give you access to our show notes, copies of our show notes for every Debate This episode, in addition to extended cut Debate This episodes that are uploaded straight to the Patreon. And then, of course, at that $25 level, that will get you access to everything I just said, in addition to the ability to commission your own flavor texts. We're asking that people join and stay at the Master Debater level for 3 months, total of 3 months. Then you will unlock your first flavor text commission. Also, we started doing movie nights. We did a movie night last week when we were as of this recording on Halloween night, where Matt walked us through the wonder and majesty that is the Ghost Rider movie, the Nick Cage Ghost Rider movie that was made in 2007.
So now Andrew gets all of Matt's Ghost Rider references whenever he makes them.
Which is really all I've ever wanted.
Yeah, so if you join at that level, you'll have all of that and all of that backlogged as well. That's all up on Patreon.
That is going to do it for us today. Thank you all for listening to Debate This. You can follow along the arguments on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at DebateThisCast, or on our website at debatethiscast.com. Until next time, I'm Kyle Harper.
I'm Todd. 11 and a half years later, I'm still angry about this movie, Thomas.
I'm Matt. If Sokka played football at Notre Dame, you could call him Moon Tai Teo. Cole.
And I'm Andrew. Good Appa. I'm burning Sozin's Comet 4.
Oh, God.
Henderson.
Oh, what a callback.
And we're saying thanks for debating with us. And if you think we're wrong, you can come fight us behind the swing sets, nerds.